Chapter 1890. As expected, Xiao was startled. Then she nodded as if she understood the meaning of Yi Xian's words. Big brother, thank you for your advice. This little sister almost harmed second brother. Xiao bowed to Yi Xian. She was a smart girl, so she naturally understood Yi Xian's meaning. Yi Xian was speechless to the extreme. He really wanted to slap himself. He was too talkative. If his words caused an irreversible change to occur between the two of them, then great danger would appear on his body. Fortunately, Yi Xian didn't feel his body disappearing. Clearly, his words didn't change anything. Otherwise, he would have regretted it to the extreme. Second brother, you can come back. While Yi Xian was regretting, Shi Yao's voice sounded. In the next moment, Taitsong appeared beside the girl. He stared at Yi Xian with a vigilant expression, as if he was looking at a love rival. Second brother, come with me. I have something to say to you. Shi Yao pulled Taitsong by the hand and floated away. This made Taitsong burst with happiness. Even his hostility towards Yi Xian disappeared in an instant. Ai. Seeing Shi Yao leave with Taitsong, Yi Xian sighed. He was afraid that Shi Yao was going to confess to Taitsong. That brat won't blame me, right? Yi Xian instantly woke up and became vigilant. After all, if the young Taitsong went crazy, Yi Xian would be afraid. There was a saying that was very good. Good things don't come true, bad things come true. Yi Xian didn't know if he was a jinx or not. In any case, he already felt a shocking anger sweeping towards him. Yi Zongtian. Hong Long Long. Immemorial evil light. Tong Tian pierced through the ground. That evil figure crossed the sky, and that shocking anger made the world tremble. Bang! Xie Tian's attack. Before Taitsong arrived, a gigantic palm that covered the sky came crashing down with a loud bang. Heaven-burying finger. Yi Xian was already prepared. His finger pierced through the heavens and earth, and exploded Taitsong's evil sky with a single blow. Just the power of the two heaven-defying four transformations instantly turned everything within 100 million miles into ashes. Rumble. The earth sank and the void collapsed. A boundless expanse of scorched earth appeared. Taitsong appeared in front of Yi Xian with a loud bang. His eyes were filled with extreme anger. Yi Zongtian, what did you say to Xiao? Taitsong roared Taitsong angrily. The terrifying archean evil light swirled around him, and he unleashed the full power of the four heaven-defying transformations. He looked at Yi Xian as if he had a death grudge. Clearly, after Yi Xian's reminder, Xiao confessed to Taitsong. Faced with the rejection of his most beloved girl, Taitsong naturally lost his mind and blamed everything on Yi Xian. What are you doing? Looking at the angry look on Taitsong's face, Yi Xian frowned slightly. He didn't want to get involved in this matter, but he didn't expect to be involved. Yi Zongtian, what did you say to Xiao? Why did she say that she only sees me as an elder brother? Taitsong asked angrily. He looked at Yi Xian with an extremely unfriendly gaze. Faced with Taitsong's questioning, Yi Xian was helpless. He really didn't know how to persuade Taitsong. Second brother, what are you doing? In an instant, Xiao stood in front of Yi Xian and looked at Taitsong angrily. Xiao, do you like him? Is that why you rejected me? At this moment, Taitsong had already lost his calm. He looked at Yi Xian angrily, waiting for Xiao to give him an answer. Second brother, what are you talking about? How could I like eldest brother? Are you done? Xiao was really angry. Even her face was cold. This made Taitsong calm down instantly. A hint of regret appeared in his eyes. Second brother, don't make trouble. Whether it's you or eldest brother, I only see you as my elder brothers. I don't want to get involved in love affairs. Xiao said firmly. At this moment, Yi Xian spread his hands and slowly took 3 steps back, indicating that this matter really had nothing to do with him. If Taitsong wanted to pester Xiao, then Yi Xian naturally couldn't be bothered. Anyway, Yi Xian knew what he wanted to do. He returned to the ancient era to reach the 9 changes shocking heavens, not to pester a pair of sad lovers. At most, he would just leave. The ancient era was so big, where couldn't he go? He didn't have to travel with the two of them. However, to be honest, Yi Xian really didn't want to leave the two of them. After all, in the entire ancient era, there were only 3 people who could reach the 9 changes shocking heavens. These three people's lives could be said to be magnificent. Yi Xian naturally wanted to see it with his own eyes. Moreover, the three people's Dao and Dao would enlighten him. Little sister, since you treat me as your elder brother, then I have nothing to say. However, I just want to ask you one thing. What kind of person should you like? Taizong obviously hadn't given up. Even if Shi Yao treated him and Yi Xian as her elder brothers, this didn't mean that he didn't have a chance. Yi Xian had seen Taizong's pestering attitude. The word convinced was written in his heart. Infatuation, stubbornness, and even stupidity. Yi Xian had never seen such a person. According to Yi Xian's words in the human world, Taizong was the peak of licking dogs. No one could surpass him. Yi Xian was speechless to the extreme when a licking dog reached this point. Second brother, I still don't have anyone I like. If I really do like someone, then that person must be the strongest person in the ancient era. He must be as strong as the legendary strongest person in the ancient era, Desolate. It was unknown if this was Shi Yao's true thoughts, or if she was just brushing off Taizong. When she finished speaking, Taizong was clearly shocked and didn't say anything for a long time. No way, right? In the next moment, Yi Xian's heart trembled. He stared at Shi Yao in a daze. A strange look appeared in his eyes. If Yi Xian remembered correctly, Taizong had started cultivating crazily because of Shi Yao. He had even grown into the terrifying ancient evil king. He had even gone to find Gu Taichu to fight. He wanted to truly dominate the ancient era. As expected, Taizong had already calmed down. However, his eyes were burning with flames, and a shocking battle intent overflowed from his body. The strongest person in the ancient era? Taizong clenched his fists and nodded heavily at Shi Yao. His voice was as firm as a rock as he said, "All right, I will definitely become the strongest person in the ancient era. When the time comes, I will let you know that in the entire ancient era, only I, Taizong, am worthy of you." History was always shockingly similar. Yi Xian might not have believed these words in the past, but now he truly believed them. Seeing the battle intent rising from Taizong, Yi Xian shook his head. He knew that history was still moving according to a fixed trajectory. Chapter 1891. Second brother Yu? Shi Yao had really been defeated by Taizong. Even though she had already expressed her refusal, Taizong obviously wouldn't give up. Perhaps even Shi Yao herself did not know that her words today would give birth to a primeval evil king. Love is really annoying. Yi Xian walked over slowly and looked at the two of them with annoyance. If he did not know that the two of them would become earth-shattering existences in the future, he would not have the time to waste with them. Big brother, you must be joking. Shi Yao smiled bitterly. Yi Xian patted Taizong's shoulder and teased him. Don't call yourself Taizong anymore. Just call yourself second fool. You're the fool. Taizong shook off Yi Xian's hand. He always felt that Yi Xian did not have good intentions towards him. If Shi Yao was not present, he would definitely not be willing to stay with Yi Xian. The storm calmed down, and the three of them returned to their original state. They did not mention anything about love. At Yi Xian's suggestion, the three of them traveled together and prepared to go to the middle primeval world. It was the center of the primeval world, and the real experts were gathered there. However, before they went to the middle primeval world, Yi Xian and Taizong had something to do, and that was revenge. That's right, revenge. The two of them had almost died at the hands of the great Yin patriarch. If they did not kill this old man, how could they go to the middle primeval world in peace? In the past, the two of them were naturally not a match for the great Yin patriarch. However, things were different now. The two of them had stepped into the fourth transformation. Although they were only one level lower than the great Yin patriarch, they could still kill the great Yin patriarch with their Dharma and Tao. Moreover, Shi Yao was also at the fourth transformation. The three of them did not dare to say that they could dominate the entire primeval world, but they could definitely do whatever they wanted. Great Yin Divine Dynasty. For the past few days, the Great Yin Divine Lord's eyelids kept twitching. He had a feeling that something bad was about to happen. Ever since the Great Yin Patriarch had returned empty-handed, he had been feeling uneasy. This was because Yi Xian and Taizong were still alive. This was a huge problem for the Great Yin Divine Dynasty. Rumble. All of a sudden, the entire Great Yin Divine Dynasty was covered by dark clouds. Bolts of lightning struck down from the clouds, causing a devastating blow to the Great Yin Divine Dynasty in an instant. Who dares to offend my Great Flame Divine Dynasty? The Great Yin Divine Lord's expression changed immediately. He shot up into the skies. However, before he could see who the intruder was, a heaven-defying grand art came crashing down on him. Bang! One strike. It was just a single blow. The Great Yan's Divine Lord did not even get a good look at the attacker before he was sent flying. His body exploded in an instant, and a large amount of blood gushed out from every part of his body. Great Yan's Divine Lord? He's just a piece of trash. Boom! Evil suppresses heaven and earth, and all living things sink into oblivion. A towering figure towered between heaven and earth. It was none other than Taitsong's heavenly evil avatar. It was clear that Taitsong was the one who had severely injured the Great Yin Divine Lord with a single blow. His opponent was only at the third transformation. How could he be a match for Taitsong? There was a huge gap between the fourth transformation and the third transformation. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. Die! Boom! The heavenly evil avatar's attack came crashing down. A huge palm that blotted out the sky materialized and shot toward the Great Yin Divine Lord with the intention of destroying the entire Great Yin Divine Dynasty. How dare you! Boom! Before the attack could land, a terrifying grand art shot up and instantly nullified Taitsong's attack. A figure shot up into the skies. It was none other than the Great Yin Divine Lord, who was at the fifth transformation. It's you! The Great Yin Divine Lord roared. He could tell at a glance that the newcomer was Taitsong. However, a grim expression appeared in the depths of his eyes. Old man, today is the day you die. Whiz! The heavenly evil avatar vanished, and Taitsong appeared in the air. A sinister smile appeared on his face. Brat, you're only at the fourth transformation, and yet, you're here to seek revenge? You must be tired of living, the Great Yin Divine Lord said coldly. The great ancestor of Great Yin said coldly. His terrifying power bloomed. As a peerless cultivator of the 5 transformations, facing a cultivator of the 4 transformations was not enough to make him feel afraid. Instead, it aroused his killing intent. Old dog of Great Yin, let's see who's going to die today. Taitsong smiled wickedly. There was an indescribable hint of mockery in his eyes. At the same time, 2 figures appeared next to Taitsong. They were none other than Yi Xian and Shi Yao. When Yi Xian and Shi Yao appeared, the Great Yin ancestor's body instantly stiffened. With his heaven-defying 5 transformations, how could he not see that Yi Xian and Shi Yao were also at the heaven-defying 4 transformations? How was this possible? The Great Yin Divine Lord's heart trembled. He could not believe his eyes. It had not been long, and yet, these 2 fellows had already reached the 4th transformation. Moreover, there was a woman at the 4th transformation as well. Old man, I'll take your life today. Yi Xian smiled cruelly. His eyes were filled with savagery. With the 3 of them at the 4th transformation, even if the Great Yin Divine Lord was at the 5th transformation, he would still have to suffer. It was not that the 5th transformation was not powerful. On the contrary, the 5th transformation was definitely powerful. They could easily defeat any 4th transformation cultivator. Even if the 3 of them joined forces, they might not be a match for a 5th transformation cultivator. After all, the difference between each tier in the heaven-defying realm was huge. However, Yi Xian and the other 2 did not fall into this category. It should be known that Yi Xian and the other 2 were not ordinary 4th transformation cultivators. Their methods and Daos could be said to be the best in the universe. They could even be said to be invincible among those in the same realm. Now that 3 of them had come, even if the Great Yin Divine Lord was at the 5th transformation, he would still have to suffer. You're courting death. How dare you invade the Great Yin Divine Dynasty when you're merely at the 4th transformation? Today you won't be able to leave. The Great Yin Divine Lord did not see the situation clearly. As far as he knew, even if the 3 of them were at the 4th transformation, the Great Yin Divine Lord was at the 5th transformation. He could kill them on the spot. Shut up. Suddenly, the Great Yin Divine Lord's expression changed slightly. He looked at the great Yin Divine Lord in confusion. Fellow Taoists, you're indeed dragons and phoenixes among men. What happened before was a misunderstanding. Can we form good karma and bury the hatchet? The great Yin Divine Lord was shrewd and ruthless. He could clearly sense the threat Yi Xian and the other two posed to him. Therefore, he lowered his stance and spoke. Old dog, we almost died in your hands earlier. You didn't let us go. Taitsong sneered. Despite being insulted by Taitsong, the great Yin Divine Lord managed to endure it. He cupped his fists and said, Fellow Taoists, you're the ones who came to my doorstep for no reason. You wanted to destroy my divine dynasty and steal my primal stones. You even killed 2 of my disciples. I had no choice but to strike back. Now, not only are the 2 of you safe and sound, but you're also at the 4th transformation. Moreover, the primal stones and divine items in Great Yan's treasure vault have all been taken by you. Why do you have to force my hand, fellow Taoists? The great Yin Divine Lord began to reason with them. He was no longer as domineering as before. Elder brothers, is that really the case? Xiao frowned slightly. If what the great Yin Divine Lord said was true, her elder brothers were being unreasonable. They came to the divine dynasty for no reason, killed their disciples, and stole their primal stones and divine items. Were they not allowed to retaliate? Chapter 1892. Second brother, is he telling the truth? Xiao looked at Taitsong with a frown. This? Taitsong smiled awkwardly, because the great Yin Patriarch was telling the truth. He and Yi Xian were the ones who had caused trouble for the great Yin Patriarch first. Xiao, you can't blame me for this. Eldest brother was the one who came up with this idea. I was also used by him. Taitsong did not want to leave a bad impression on Xiao, so he pushed the blame to Yi Xian. At this moment, Great Yan's Patriarch sighed when he saw the 3 of them arguing. After all, he really did not want to fight the 3 of them. Moreover, they were not ordinary cultivators of the heaven-defying 4 transformation realm. He was not confident at all. Otherwise, he would not have endured it so patiently. Eldest brother. Xiao looked at Yi Xian with a hint of resentment. Unfortunately, Yi Xian was not Taitsong. He was not a bootlicker like Taitsong. There's no right or wrong in this world. There's only the strong and the weak. If reason can help one survive in the primeval age, what's the difference between the weak and the strong? Yi Xian said disdainfully. The strong are as heavy as a mountain while the weak are like dogs. If you want to become stronger, you naturally have to kill your way to the peak. Little sister, don't you understand this logic? As soon as Yi Xian said that, Xiao bit her lips. She did not know how to answer. Second brother, why are you wasting your breath on him? Kill this old dog and destroy his divine dynasty. Boom! Yi Xian called out to Taitsong and attacked. This attack was a killing move that didn't show the slightest bit of mercy. If Yi Xian wanted to kill someone, he would definitely want that person dead. No one could change his mind. Great Yan's Patriarch was on the list of people he had to kill. Xiao, you saw it. Eldest brother is the one who ordered this. I'm close to him, so I can't watch him fight alone. Taitsong pushed all the blame to Yi Xian and attacked Great Yan's Patriarch. After all, Taitsong was a person who held grudges. He had long wanted to kill Great Yan's Patriarch. You dare? The Great Yin Patriarch's expression changed. Faced with the combined attack of the 2, a terrifying primordial divine fire erupted from his body and blasted toward the 2 of them. Bang! The divine flame exploded, and the evil light reincarnation cycle exploded. The terrifying energy that erupted instantly shattered the entire Great Yin Divine Dynasty. Die! I want your life! Yi Xian and Taitsong roared ferociously. After the first attack, the 2 of them charged forward again. The 2 of them were at the heaven-defying 4th transformation, and were absolutely terrifying. How can he be so strong? Great Yan's Patriarch's face was filled with fear. He had used all his strength in his attack earlier, but he did not manage to push the 2 of them back. Master, be careful. The Great Yin Divine Lord instantly appeared beside the Great Yin Patriarch. Clearly, he wanted to lend his master a hand. However, in the next moment tragedy befell him. My good disciple, help me block them. In the future, I will definitely avenge you. Boom! Great Yan's patriarch pushed the Great Yan's divine lord away. Then, he executed heaven shifting and earth shifting, and instantly fled into the distance. "You'll die a horrible death," the Great Yan divine lord shrieked. He did not expect Great Yan's patriarch to be so shameless. However, he could no longer retreat. Faced with the joint attack of Yi Xian and Tai Tsong, he was truly doomed. Boom! The Great Yan divine lord's body exploded into a bloody mist that rained down from the sky. His death bought Great Yan's patriarch an opportunity to flee. "Damn it! That old dog got away!" Tai Tsong roared hatefully. He did not expect an expert at the heaven-defying fifth transformation to flee in the face of danger. "Don't worry. That old man won't be able to escape," Yi Xian said viciously. "Little sister, I'll leave it to you to find him." Yi Xian turned to look at Xi Yao. Only her vanishing life technique could pinpoint the direction of Great Yan's patriarch. "I understand, big brother." Xi Yao was not a pedantic person. After listening to Yi Xian's lecture, the knot in her heart had been untied. Moreover, the primeval age was a place where the strong preyed on the weak. How could she not understand this? Moreover, the three of them were traveling together. Their goal in coming to the Great Yan divine dynasty this time was to kill Great Yan's patriarch. Whiz! Vanishing life, heaven and earth could sense it. Xi Yao's Dharma and Tao were in harmony with heaven and earth. A wisp of divine light flickered between her brows before it transformed into a rune and disappeared into the void. "Found him," Xi Yao called out. Xi Yao called out to the other two. The air suddenly distorted. The three of them cast heaven and earth shifting and swiftly pursued Great Yan's patriarch. Heaven and earth shifting art was as fast as lightning. Great Yan's patriarch fled in the void. His speed was already at its peak, but there was a hint of shame and anger on his face. He was an expert at the heaven-defying fifth transformation, but he was forced to flee for his life by three juniors. This was a great humiliation to him. However, he had to flee. These three juniors gave him an extremely dangerous feeling. They were not something an ordinary heaven-defying fourth transformation cultivator could compare to. Heaven-defying cultivators possessed extraordinary senses. Their instincts toward danger were exceptionally sensitive. Great Yan's patriarch was certain that if he fought the three of them, he would be in a life-or-death situation. "Old dog of Great Yan, do you think you can escape?" Suddenly, an explosive shout sounded out from behind the Great Yan ancestor. The Great Yan ancestor turned around in shock, only to discover that Yi Xian and the other two had already caught up. "How's this possible?" Great Yan's patriarch felt chills run down his spine. He had clearly fled hundreds of millions of miles away, and had even concealed his aura. How did the three of them find him? Alas, Great Yan's patriarch did not know that Xi Yao's bliss vanishing art was extremely powerful. Even a heaven-defying sixth transformation cultivator would not be able to escape her senses, let alone a heaven-defying fifth transformation cultivator. Swoosh! Swoosh! In an instant, Yi Xian and the other two surrounded Great Yan's patriarch. No matter how powerful he was, he could not escape again. "Don't go too far." Great Yan's patriarch growled hatefully. Terrifying flames swirled around him, and the primal chi of heaven and earth burned in a terrifying manner. "Young lady, why are you helping the two of them kill me?" The patriarch of Great Yan was making a final struggle. He questioned Xi Yao loudly, because he could sense that Xi Yao was his last hope. "I'm sorry. It doesn't matter who's right or wrong. What's important is that they're my brothers. If they want to kill you, it's only natural for me to stand on their side." In Xi Yao's eyes, there was no concept of good and evil. She only knew how to do what she felt was right. Just as Yi Xian had said, if one wanted to become an expert in the primordial world, they had to kill their way out of their cultivation. Xi Yao was not a pedantic person. Naturally, she understood Yi Xian's meaning. Hence, regardless of whether Yi Xian and Tai Tsong were in the right, Great Yan's patriarch had to die. "Don't waste your breath on him. Just kill him." Boom! Yi Xian was the first to make a move. He punched out with the eternal reincarnation fist. Tai Tsong smiled sinisterly and attacked even more ruthlessly. Xi Yao's jade-like hand flew up, and the heavens and earth distorted. This was the first time she had revealed her cultivation base in front of Yi Xian and Tai Tsong. It truly shocked Yi Xian and Taizong. Chapter 1893. Swish. Swish. Life and death, life and death. The unfathomable divine light swam between heaven and earth, converging into mysterious runes. These runes collided with each other, producing a rhythmic killing sound as they shot toward the great Yin Patriarch. Divine sound soul extinguishing life and death. When Shi Yao displayed her extremely powerful killing move, Yi Xian and Taizong were instantly shocked. This was because Shi Yao's technique was even fiercer than theirs. Moreover, Shi Yao's life and death technique was extremely terrifying. It was actually slightly stronger than theirs. This also proved that Shi Yao's cultivation base should be above theirs. All this time, Shi Yao had appeared gentle and refined, giving off a sense of weakness. However, her attack today immediately changed Yi Xian and Taizong's opinion of her. You're courting death. The great Yin Patriarch would definitely not sit and wait for death. He roared madly at the sky. Streams of divine fire laws raged out, wanting to force Yi Xian and the other two to retreat. Unfortunately, Yi Xian and the other two were simply too powerful. Their combined might was even more terrifying. The divine fire streams that the great Yin Patriarch shot out were instantly shattered by the three of them. Go to hell! Yi Xian roared ferociously. He called for Shi Yao and Taizong to charge forward. The three heaven-defying experts of the four transformations surrounded the great Yin Patriarch. Rumble! The heavens collapsed and the earth cracked. Everything sank. The four figures were completely locked in battle. Heaven and earth within hundreds of millions of miles were collapsing. The power unleashed by the four heaven-defying experts could destroy heaven and earth. This was a bitter battle. An extremely difficult battle. Although Yi Xian and the other two were terrifyingly powerful, the great Yin Patriarch was a 5 transformations expert after all. It would not be easy to kill him. Moreover, the great Yin Patriarch was currently fighting like a cornered beast. The battle prowess he unleashed was even more terrifying. Even Yi Xian and the other two did not dare to risk their lives against him. However, Yi Xian and the other two kept attacking the great Yin Patriarch in a frenzy. They did not give him any time to catch his breath at all. There was a saying that a large number of ants could kill an elephant. Moreover, Yi Xian and the other two were not ants, and the great Yin Patriarch was not an elephant. The power unleashed by the three of them had already put the great Yin Patriarch in a life and death crisis. Too evil. Reincarnation. Destruction. Rumble. Yi Xian and the other experts of the great Yin Patriarch roared. 3 great killing great arts, the great Yin Patriarch, Great Yan's great Yin Patriarch, exploded. It was over. Great Yan's Patriarch finally came to an end. He turned into a rain of blood that rained down from the sky. Even his soul that tried to flee was obliterated by the trio's terrifying power. The great Yin Patriarch's great Yin Patriarch was great Yin there, the great transformation. The earth great Yi was earth great earth was heaven's great. She didn't dare to say that he could dominate the ancient immemorial era. But he could do whatever he wanted. The great Yin Patriarch's death was somewhat aggrieved. He was beaten to death by the three of them. It was truly a tragedy. It's a pity that his cultivation base is gone. Looking at the rain of blood, Yi Xian's eyes were filled with helplessness. His tribulation transcender technique was ineffective in the ancient world. If he could devour the great Yin Patriarch's cultivation base, his cultivation base would greatly increase. Let's see what good things this old guy left behind. Taizong's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. He flipped his hand and sucked the great Yin Patriarch's cosmos bag into his hand. Then he quickly checked what treasures were inside. This old guy is really rich. After a few breaths, Taizong exclaimed. Obviously, he was extremely excited about the large number of treasures in the cosmos bag. Chi! Suddenly, a divine light flashed, and the cosmos bag in Taizong's hand instantly disappeared. It was now in Yi Xian's hand. What are you doing? Taizong shouted angrily. This is the spoils of war for us 3 siblings. Leave this cosmos bag with me first. When the time comes, we'll split it. Yi Xian shamelessly put away the cosmos bag, which made Taizong indignant. However, Shi Yao smiled slightly and didn't care too much about it. Tidesong coldly snorted and said, "Humph, don't even think about taking it all for yourself." Xiao hurriedly mediated. "All right, it's just a few origin stones. Brothers, don't bother about it." Xiao don't believe him. He has no morals at all. Tidesong glanced at Yi Xian. He had been cheated by Yi Xian once, and the memory of it was still fresh in his mind. Xiao changed the topic and said, "Brothers, this person has already fallen. Should we set off for the Middle Ancient World?" The Middle Ancient World. Yi Xian muttered with a look of yearning in his eyes. "There's no hurry." Yi Xian shook his head slowly and said, "The experts in the Middle Ancient World are like carps crossing the river. Although our cultivation has reached the 4th transformation, we still need to improve. It won't be too late to go to the Middle Ancient World when we reach the 5th transformation." Xiao and Tidesong nodded when they heard Yi Xian's words. In fact, Yi Xian didn't say one thing. They had just destroyed the Great Yin Divine Dynasty, and the Eastern Ancient World was now a mess. They could plunder the endless origin stones for their own use. After all, Yi Xian was different from Tidesong and Xiao. His cultivation was built up by the accumulation of origin stones. He wasn't like the two who could break through their current realm with their own talent. Next, a group of 3 who committed all kinds of crimes appeared in the Eastern Ancient World. God exterminating Divine Dynasty, Calamity Origin Stones. As long as there were treasures, the 3 of them would be there. The 3 of them burned, killed, and plundered, causing the entire Eastern Ancient World to fall into chaos. However, the 3 of them were extremely powerful. Some divine dynasties couldn't resist at all, and were destroyed by the 3 of them. For 10,000 years, the group of 3 who committed all kinds of crimes had almost traveled all over the Eastern Ancient World. Wherever the 3 of them went, it could be said that not even a blade of grass grew. Along the way, Xiao had also changed from a pure and innocent little girl to a little money grubber who committed all kinds of crimes. Sometimes, she was even more ruthless than Yi Xian and Tidesong, which made Yi Xian and Tidesong dumbfounded. Yi Xian finally believed the saying, "One is marked by the company one keeps." As he and Tidesong robbed and plundered along the way, Xiao gradually changed into the 2 of them, and became even more ruthless. In fact, this wasn't Xiao's fault. It was just that as Yi Xian and the others plundered more origin stones and divine items, their cultivation grew at a terrifying pace. It could be said that they were advancing by leaps and bounds. What was the most important thing in the ancient world? The answer was cultivation. Even Xiao was no exception. As they plundered more and more origin stones, their cultivation soared under the accumulation of origin stones. This kind of pleasure was simply unimaginable to outsiders. The 3 of them couldn't stop at all. At this moment, Yi Xian's cultivation had reached the peak of the heaven-defying 4th transformation, while Xiao and Tidesong were not far behind. They were only 1 step away from the heaven-defying 5th transformation. It should be known that it would take many years to reach the heaven-defying 5th transformation from the heaven-defying 4th transformation. In order to break through to the heaven-defying 5th transformation, the 3 of them could be said to be non-stop, crazily plundering all the cultivation resources in the Eastern Ancient World. Especially Xiao, who had turned into a crazy little money grubber. Every time Yi Xian and Tidesong wanted to take a rest, she would drag Yi Xian and Tidesong to the next destination, where she would slaughter everyone. In the end, Yi Xian discovered the nature of Xiao. Under her pure appearance, there was a little devil's heart. In summary, there was only one word to describe it: so fragrant. Chapter 1894. However, the evil trio's life was not smooth sailing. They had robbed and killed so many divine dynasties that they had already aroused the public's anger. There was even a time when 2 terrifying experts in the 5 transformations of the heaven-defying 5 transformations joined forces to hunt down the 3 of them. The 3 of them had almost died at the hands of the 2 experts. Fortunately, the 3 of them were very resourceful. Facing the 2 experts of the 5 transformation realm, they had done all kinds of evil. The 3 of them immediately fled, not giving the 2 experts of the 5 transformation realm a chance to fight to the death. The trio's notoriety had almost spread throughout the Eastern Archean world, but no one could do anything to them. This had also made many divine dynasties uneasy day and night. They were deeply afraid that the trio, who had committed all kinds of crimes, would appear at any time and slaughter all of them. Rumble! The world was distorted, and the world was shaking. The three terrifying figures soared into the sky, and the primordial chi that filled the sky and earth exploded. We did it! Taitsong shouted excitedly. His body was full of evil light, and the terrifying power of the 5 transformation realm bloomed. He was extremely excited at this moment. After refining hundreds of millions of primordial stones of the heavens and earth, even a pig can step into the 5 transformation realm, Yi Xian said sarcastically. Just as Yi Xian said, if Taitsong could not break into the 5 transformation realm, after refining hundreds of millions of primordial stones of the heavens and earth, he might as well kill himself. Of course, Taitsong was not the only one who had stepped into the 5 transformation realm. Yi Xian and Xiao had also become experts of the 5 transformation realm at the same time. Their cultivation had undergone earth-shaking changes again. Taitsong was suddenly angry and wanted to retort. But before he could open his mouth, Xiao had already come to the two of them and said with a smile, Okay, we have finally stepped into the heaven-defying 5 changes. Brothers don't quarrel anymore. Humph! Taitsong glared at Yi Xian and did not say anything. After all, he had to listen to Xiao. Big brother, where are we going next? Xiao's eyes narrowed like crescent moons, and she looked as eager as a little money grubber. Although Taitsong was unwilling to admit it, Yi Xian was indeed the backbone of the three of them. If it were not for Yi Xian leading them and plundering the eastern primeval world, the three of them would not have been able to reach the heaven-defying 5 transformations so quickly. Sensing their eager gazes, Yi Xian's eyes flickered slightly. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile as he said, We've already caused enough trouble in the eastern immemorial world. The strongest experts there are only at the 5th transformation stage. They can't help us improve our cultivation. Naturally, we have to go to the central immemorial world. I heard that there are experts at the 8th or 9th transformation stage there. As Yi Xian's words fell, Taitsong and Xiao's eyes lit up. They had long wanted to go to the central immemorial world. Now that Yi Xian mentioned it, they naturally agreed. Xiao, just you wait. I will definitely reach the 9th transformation stage in the central immemorial world. I will even break through to the legendary 9th transformation stage. Taitsong was in high spirits. His face was filled with invincible confidence. He was also declaring to Xiao that he would definitely become the strongest person in the central immemorial world. Second brother, I believe you can do it. Xiao giggled and nodded. Looking at the two future experts, Yi Xian smiled faintly. However, there was a trace of sadness in his eyes. After all, the two of them did not have a good ending. Let's go to the central immemorial world and reach the 9th transformation stage together. Yi Xian called out to the two of them. The three of them moved through the sky and earth and headed towards the central immemorial world. The central immemorial world. It was divided into 5 regions: East, West, North, South, and Central. Needless to mention the 4 regions, the strongest experts were all in the central immemorial world. From this, it could be seen that the central immemorial world was divided into 5 regions. This was almost the same as the chaotic world of the later generations. If there was a difference between the two, it would be that the central immemorial world was countless times larger than the chaotic world of the later generations. There was almost no comparison. 1 million years. It took Yi Xian and the other two 1 million years to go to the central immemorial world. Moreover, they had used the sky and earth shifting technique. However, it still took them so much time. From this, it was enough to see how vast the territory of the central immemorial world was. Even if a heaven-defying realm expert wanted to travel through the entire central immemorial world, it would probably take an endless amount of time. The sky was vast and the sky was vast. The sun that had existed since ancient times was hanging in the sky. It was emitting endless sun rays that illuminated the entire central immemorial world. Big brother, we have been in the central immemorial world for 3 years. Why haven't we seen a single heaven-defying realm expert? There were green mountains and clear waters, and the river was surging. Under an ancient pine by the river, Xiao stretched lazily. Her slender and beautiful body was full of curves. Suddenly, Taitsong's face turned red. He hurriedly looked away, like an innocent young man. What a good-for-nothing. Looking at Taitsong's red cheeks, Yixian sneered. Then he looked at Xiao and said teasingly, "Little sister, you are becoming more and more casual. Your second brother can't stand your unique charm. Yizongtian, if you talk nonsense, I will tear your mouth." Being teased by Yixian, Taitsong said hatefully. However, his face became redder and redder. Obviously, the charm that Xiao had just shown made his little heart beat faster. Yixian didn't pay attention to Taitsong at all. Instead, he looked around and murmured, "This central immemorial world is bigger than the other 4 regions combined. Moreover, the heaven-defying realm experts are not weeds on the roadside. We have just arrived here. How can we see a heaven-defying realm expert? Big brother, didn't we come to the central immemorial world to see a more powerful heaven-defying realm expert? Now we are wandering aimlessly. It's really boring." Xiao smiled mischievously. Looking at the smile on Xiao's face, Yixian laughed. Now that he had gotten rid of Xiao's devilish nature, he naturally knew what she was thinking. This little girl was simply unable to restrain herself and wanted to pick up her old profession again, to engage in the shady business of raiding and robbing. After all, they had been in the Eastern primeval world for so many years and had committed all sorts of crimes. The trio had wreaked havoc in the Eastern primeval world. They had destroyed more than a dozen divine dynasties and plundered hundreds of millions of primeval stones. Only then had the trio stepped into the heaven-defying 5th transformation. Now that they had come to the more prosperous middle immemorial world, Xiao naturally had the same idea again. After all, how could blindly cultivating be faster than slaughtering people and robbing primordial stones? Where is the nearest divine dynasty? Let's go there and destroy them. We will rob their primordial stones. Let's see if any expert in the central immemorial world can be a match for me." Taitsong laughed wildly, as if he was looking down on the central immemorial world. "Second brother, I support you." Xiao clapped her hands excitedly, and little stars appeared in her eyes. Obviously, she was extremely keen on robbing people. Looking at the excited expressions of the two, Yixian was really speechless. If he didn't know that the two of them would become earth-shattering existences in the future, he would never believe that the young Xiao and Taitsong were like this. Chapter 1895. However, as the leader of the 3, Yixian could not allow the two to run amok. After all, they had just arrived in the Middle Archean world and had yet to understand it, so it was better to keep a low profile. Moreover, Yixian wanted to meet someone in the Middle Archean world, someone who was very close to him. Lu Bai. No. In this era, the other party was called Absolute Beginning, and Lu Bai was only his reincarnation. Yixian had no feelings for Absolute Beginning, but Lu Bai was different. He did not want Lu Bai to turn into Absolute Beginning in the future. To put it bluntly, Yixian was Desolation's reincarnation, but he was still himself. Desolation had disappeared. Lu Bai's situation was similar to his, but he was disturbed by Absolute Beginning's memories, so he could not tell whether he was Absolute Beginning or Lu Bai. Yixian wanted to see the number 1 immemorial divine king, Absolute Beginning, who was also known as the number 1 person in the Archean world. He wanted to see what cultivation level Absolute Beginning was at, and whether he had made a name for himself in the Middle Archean world. The 3 of us have just arrived in the Middle Archean world, so it's not good for us to cause trouble. Let's find a safe place to stay for the time being. Then we can plan our next move, Yixian said. It's all up to eldest brother. Xiao smiled. Although Taitsong did not say anything, he also agreed. Sky Devil Court. Speaking of the Heavenly Devil Dynasty, it was notorious in the entire Middle Archean world. The Heavenly Devil Dynasty was filled with extremely ferocious people. To put it simply, there was not a single righteous cultivator in the Sky Devil Court. All of them were evil cultivators. Sky Devil God Lord was a terrifying expert of the 4 transformations, and was ranked in the middle of the Middle Archean world. He was also a vicious and cruel person. Other than Sky Devil God Lord, there were 4 Dharma Kings, all of whom were at the 2 or 3 transformations. There were a total of 5 heaven-defying realm experts in the Sky Devil dynasty, and there were hundreds of millions of demon sons and demon grandchildren under their command. In the entire Middle Archean world, they were a force to be reckoned with. However, the Sky Devil dynasty was in a miserable state today. The dark gate of the Divine Dynasty had been smashed into pieces, and the high and mighty Sky Devil Lord had been trampled under someone's feet. He was roaring in anger and humiliation, but he did not even have the strength to fight back. I heard that you are the God Devil God Lord. Yi Xian stepped on Heavenly Devil God Lord's head with the sole of his foot, constantly grinding it down, while Heavenly Devil God Lord roared in shame and anger. Just who are you? This Lord has no enmity with you. So why are you humiliating me like this? Heavenly Demon God Lord roared in grief and indignation. His eyes were as red as blood, and he was clearly extremely ashamed and indignant. But if one looked carefully, one would discover that the celestial demon God Lord's eyes were filled with panic, as well as deep fear and shock. He really did not know who he had offended. He normally cultivated in the Sky Devil dynasty, and there were even 4 great law emperors guarding him. But today, 3 extremely terrifying fellows had suddenly appeared. In less than 10 breaths of time, they had killed millions of demon sons and demon descendants. Moreover, the 4 great law emperors had all been suppressed, and even he, the Heavenly Devil God Lord, had been trampled under their feet without the slightest ability to fight back. Lao Tzu is asking you a question. Are you the Heavenly Devil God Lord? Bang! Yi Xian's expression turned cold as he stomped down. With a loud boom, half of the Heavenly Devil God Lord's head was stomped into the ground, and a terrifying sound came from his skull. Yes, I am the Heavenly Devil God Lord. In the face of Yi Xian's power that could crush everything, the Heavenly Devil God Lord trembled as he replied. He knew that he had run into an iron plate today, and could only answer whatever the other party asked. Little demon, you have to listen to my big brother obediently. If you make him angry, your little life will be hard to keep. Xiao giggled, still stepping on the 2 law emperors as she teased the Heavenly Devil God Lord. My Sky Devil dynasty has no enmity with these 3 fellow Taoists, so why? Bang! There was an explosion. The ones who had spoken were the 2 law emperors that Tai Tsong was stomping on. Before they could finish speaking, Tai Tsong had already sent them flying with a kick. Large amounts of blood spurted out as they crashed to the ground like dead dogs. Did Lao Tzu allow the 2 of you to speak? Tai Tsong's evil intent was brutal as he lifted the 2 of them up with both hands. His fierce and evil eyes scared the 2 law emperors into silence, not daring to say another word. Fellow Taoist, please spare my life. I will definitely tell you everything I know. Seeing the miserable state of the 4 law emperors, the Heavenly Devil God Lord hurriedly begged for mercy in a trembling voice. He really could not understand when their Sky Devil dynasty had offended such terrifying figures. Now that's a good boy. Yi Xian chuckled and finally moved his foot away from the Heavenly Devil God Lord. He then boldly sat down on the Heavenly Devil throne and said, The 3 of us have come here for no other reason than to tell you that this Sky Devil dynasty wants the 3 of us. From now on, you and your demon children and demon grandchildren will become our slaves. What? The Heavenly Devil God Lord's expression changed when he heard this. The word slave stung his nerves. To think that he, a heaven-defying expert of the 4th transformation, would be reduced to a slave. This was the greatest insult to him. What? You're not willing? The smile on Yi Xian's face disappeared, and his expression became fierce and unreasonable. Big brother, why waste words with him? Just kill him. Tai Tsong growled fiercely, releasing a terrifying killing intent. Clearly, he was most willing to commit acts like slaughtering an entire clan. If you don't listen, then kill him. Xiao added fuel to the fire. She had completely lost the demeanor of a virtuous lady, as she had followed Yi Xian all this time. In her eyes, there was only the despicable act of plundering. I'm willing. In the face of the overwhelming killing intent of the 3 heaven-defying experts of the 5th transformation, The heavenly devil god lord bowed his head in grief and hurriedly replied in a trembling voice. He was truly afraid that the three of them would suddenly attack and completely destroy the heavenly devil dynasty. The heavenly devil god lord could also tell that while Yi Xian and the other two seemed harmless, their methods were extremely vicious. They were definitely not good people. Okay, then from now on, the heavenly devil dynasty will be under the control of us three siblings. In the future, you demons will have to obediently listen to our orders. If you go against the will of the three of us, you should know what the consequences will be. Yi Xian gave a sinister smile that made the heavenly devil god lord shiver. He then repeatedly nodded, not daring to show the slightest dissatisfaction. The pitiful heavenly devil god lord was also a great evil of the demonic path, an extremely vicious and evil person, but today, in the hands of Yi Xian and his siblings, he had become a trembling little lamb. From now on, I will be called the Great Demon, Tide Song will be called the Second Demon, and Little Sister will be called the Third Demon. Yi Xian casually gave the three siblings a nickname. The heavenly devil dynasty would be their foothold, and they would temporarily settle down in the heavenly devil dynasty. Third demon? That sounds terrible. Xiao pouted. She was clearly a girl, but she had to use the word demon. However, since Yi Xian had already said it, she could only accept it. Very soon, under the invincible deterrence of Yi Xian and his siblings, the entire heavenly devil dynasty submitted. The heavenly devil god lord and the four law kings were as lowly as dogs. All of them placed restrictions on Yi Xian and his siblings. Even if they had any thoughts of rebellion, they had to think of the consequences. Chapter 1896. Celestial Demon Hall. Celestial Demon God Lord and the four law kings bowed as Yi Xian leaned lazily on the celestial demon throne, listening to celestial demon god lord's report. Xiantian God Dynasty's Gu Taichu? When celestial demon god lord introduced the Xiantian God Dynasty, Yi Xian's expression flickered, and he sat up lazily. This also startled Qi Yao and Tai Tsang. They didn't know why Yi Xian attached so much importance to him. What is Gu Taichu's cultivation level? What is the Xiantian God Dynasty's background? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes at celestial demon god lord. When Yi Xian asked about the Xiantian God Dynasty, celestial demon god lord's expression turned solemn as he hurriedly replied. The Xiantian God Dynasty is one of the top dynasties of the ancient era. Their god lord has reached the 8 heaven-defying transformations, and is rumored to be the closest existence to the 9 heaven-defying transformations. And this Gu Taichu is god lord Xuantian's disciple. Rumor has it that Gu Taichu's talent is extremely rare, and his cultivation level has long since reached the 7 heaven-defying transformations. He seems to have surpassed his master. Rumor has it that god lord Xiantian once praised his disciple, saying that Gu Taichu might surpass him and reach the 9 heaven-defying transformations before him. Yi Xian's eyes deepened as he listened to celestial demon god lord's description. As expected, Gu Taichu had already begun to show his talent, but Yi Xian had never imagined that this guy was already a terrifying existence at the 7 heaven-defying transformations, 2 whole realms higher than the 3 of them. There's actually such a godly person in this world. Xiao cried out in surprise. She had thought that the 3 of them were already cultivating very quickly. She hadn't expected that there would be someone even more talented than them, 2 whole realms higher than them. Your Highness, this Gu Taichu is known as the Xiantian God King. Ever since he was born, he has never suffered a single defeat. Rumor has it that this Gu Taichu is extremely likely to be the future number 1 of the ancient era, and that he might even reach the 9 heaven-defying transformations. God Lord murmured in admiration. Fuck your mother's bullshit. Suddenly a loud roar sounded. Tide Song's evil light soared into the sky, and his evil and ferocious eyes burned with raging flames. Let me tell you, the strongest in the ancient era can only belong to me, Tide Song. What bullshit, Gu Taichu. Sooner or later, he'll become a pile of bones beneath my feet. Tide Song shouted fiercely. Yes, yes, yes. Your second demon highness's cultivation surpasses both ancient and modern times. You will definitely become the number 1 person in the immemorial era. This little demon has overestimated you. The heavenly demon god lord hurriedly praised while trembling. He even secretly wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Xiao, don't worry. Isn't it just the heaven-defying 7 transformations? It won't be long before I can catch up to him. When the time comes, I'll personally slaughter him for you to see. Taizong made a solemn vow. He had a feeling that Gu Taichu was going to be a great enemy of his. This feeling was extremely strong, and it made him even more convinced. Seeing Taizong's raging fighting spirit rising, Yi Xian sighed helplessly. This was also a predestined showdown that seemed unavoidable. However, Yi Xian was also very curious. Gu Taichu was actually this strong. Xiao and Taizong were only at the 5 transformations, but he was already at the 7 transformations. After the heavenly demon god lord's report, Yi Xian and the others had a general understanding of the situation in the Middle Immemorial Era. The strongest expert in the current Immemorial Era was God Lord Profound Heaven. He had reached the 8 transformations and was currently working on the 9 transformations. Of course, God Lord Profound Heaven wasn't the only one with the 8 transformations. There were several other experts at the same level, all of them working on the 9 transformations. In the Middle Immemorial Era, almost all of the heaven-defying realm experts had gathered. Everyone was using all sorts of methods to increase their cultivation and strengthen themselves. This was because all the heaven-defying realm experts had the same goal, to break the samsara curse. For this goal, no one dared to slack off in the slightest. The heavenly devil god lord was a heaven-defying 4 transformations cultivator, and was also a great evil of the devil Tao. In the entire primeval world, he was ranked in the middle. However, due to the heavenly devil dynasty's notorious reputation, almost no one in the entire primeval world was willing to deal with the heavenly devil dynasty. The heavenly demon god lord had originally been free and unfettered, but Yi Xian and the others had come and taken over the heavenly demon dynasty. His days of freedom had finally come to an end. Sitting and discussing the Tao cultivating in seclusion, Yi Xian and the others had learned that there were many heaven-defying experts in the Middle Immemorial Era, so they had chosen to enter seclusion in the heavenly demon dynasty and begin working on the 6 transformations. It had to be said that the 3 of them had truly benefited from each other's seclusion. This was because the 3 of them cultivated the most pinnacle techniques, so their discussions had greatly benefited them. Taizong evil light rose and slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. The surrounding vitality stones of heaven and earth all turned into powder, and he frowned slightly. At the same time, Xiao also woke up from her meditation, but a trace of worry appeared on her face. Big brother, we don't have many vitality stones left. It won't be that easy to break through to the 6 transformations, Xiao said with a pout. Yi Xian slowly stopped and then nodded. They had been able to break through to the 5 transformations so quickly because they had burned, killed, and plundered in the immemorial era. At this moment, they had already used up all the vitality stones in their hands, and the heavenly demon dynasty only had 20 million vitality stones left. However, the 3 of them had just cultivated to the middle stage of the 5 transformations. If they wanted to break through to the 6 transformations, they would need an unimaginable amount of vitality stones of heaven and earth. Big brother, it's time for us to act, Xiao said with a mischievous smile. That's right. If you want to break through to the 6 transformations quickly, you can only comprehend it in a life and death battle, or use an endless amount of vitality stones to push it forward. If you blindly cultivate here, when can you catch up with the experts in the 8 transformations? Taizong evil light smiled evilly. Looking at the anxious and excited faces of the 2, Yi Xian shook his head helplessly. He knew that since the 2 of them tasted the sweetness of vitality stones of heaven and earth, they no longer had the patience to cultivate. However, Yi Xian also had some concerns. After all, the Middle Immemorial Era was different from the Immemorial Era, and there were countless experts in the 6 transformations and above. If the 3 of them destroyed the heavenly demon dynasty and stole the vitality stones like in the Immemorial Era, it was very likely that they would kick an iron plate. After all, this was the Middle Immemorial Era, and who knew what terrifying old monsters were hiding? If they encountered the 6 transformations, it would be fine. If the three of them were all in the 5 transformations, even if they could not beat them, they could just leave. However, if they encountered the existence of the 7 transformations, the 3 of them would definitely be at a great disadvantage and would most likely lose their lives. Big brother, why are you still hesitating? Shi Yao had completely turned into a little money grubber, and she looked at Yi Xian with a mischievous smile. After tasting the sweetness, she could no longer control the restlessness in her heart. At this moment, she wanted to go to the Heavenly Demon Dynasty and rob the Vitality Stones. Don't worry, with the 3 of us in the 5 transformations, although we dare not say that we can run rampant in the immemorial era, no one will dare to provoke us. If we are really unlucky and encounter the existence of the 7 transformations, with our magical means, we can escape, Taitsong said. In the face of the two's persuasion, Yi Xian smiled and said, "All right, since you insist, then I have nothing to say. However, you must listen to my commands." Of course, Shi Yao and Taitsong nodded. After all, Yi Xian was the backbone of the 3 of them. Chapter 1897. Something that was neither too big nor too small had happened in the Middle Immemorial world. With the Heavenly Devil Dynasty as the center, a war was quietly breaking out. The Heavenly Devil Divine Lord led hundreds of millions of devil sons and devil descendants to conquer the surrounding dynasties. Wars between divine dynasties were not rare. After all, in the Archean world, there were wars all the time. The so-called divine dynasties could also be destroyed and devoured by other divine dynasties. However, the Heavenly Devil Dynasty had caused a huge commotion this time. They had destroyed 3 dynasties in succession. This caused an uproar and made people feel that something was wrong. The Heavenly Devil Dynasty was indeed strong, but the dynasties around it were not weak either. They all had experts in the 4 heaven-defying transformations. However, the Heavenly Devil Dynasty had quietly destroyed 3 dynasties and continued to expand. This immediately attracted the attention of some of the top dynasties in the Archean world. The Xiantian Dynasty. His white robe rippled in the wind. His snow-white hair hung loosely behind his head. His eyes were like the stars in the sky. When they opened and closed, the vision of stars flashed in his eyes. Alpha Primordium. If Yi Xian were here, he would recognize that Alpha Primordium looked similar to Lu Bai in the future. The same robe whiter than snow and the same peerless beauty. Although he did not reveal any aura, his temperament was like the brightest star in the world. Alpha Primordium, the Luotian Dynasty sent a request for help. Go and see what kind of experts the Heavenly Devil Dynasty has, Xiantian Divine Lord said amiably. Yes, Master. Alpha Primordium turned and left, instantly disappearing into the void. Watching Alpha Primordium disappear, Xiantian Divine Lord sighed and whispered, "The 9 heaven-defying transformations is my limit. I've placed all my hopes on you. The Luotian Dynasty. Ha ha ha. Big brother, look. There are so many primal stones of heaven and earth. In the boundless ruins, a sea of blood filled the sky. Corpses lay in pools of blood. Although the Luotian Divine Lord was in the 5 heaven-defying transformations, he had been crushed alive by Yi Xian. As for Taitsong and Shi Yao, their faces were filled with excitement. They were in all heaven's treasure trove, collecting countless origin stones. Shi Yao's face was filled with extreme satisfaction, her eyes narrowed into crescents. AI. Yi Xian face-bombed as he watched the 2 of them cheering excitedly. His eyes were filled with helplessness. He had already told the 2 of them to keep a low profile. But when the 3 of them really started to destroy the God Dynasty and steal the Vitality Stones, the 2 of them were completely out of control. Originally, Yi Xian had planned to stop after destroying the 3 divine dynasties and robbing them of hundreds of millions of primordial stones. Because their movements were too big, it was very likely that they would attract the attention of some terrifying heaven-defying experts. Yi Xian had not intended to make a move on the Luotian God Court. However, he could not stand the 2 of them pestering him. The 3 of them had come knocking on his door and massacred the entire Luotian God Court. At this moment, looking at the 2 of them excitedly collecting the essence stones of heaven and earth, Yi Xian could only give in and let the two of them continue fooling around. Suddenly, Yi Xian's face changed. He looked towards the distant sky, and his heart skipped a beat. This was because the thing that he was most worried about had happened. Let's go! Yi Xian shouted at the two of them. He could feel that the person's cultivation level was extremely terrifying. It made him feel extremely helpless. This meant that the person had definitely surpassed the heaven-defying 6th transformation, and was definitely not someone that the three of them could fight against. Even without Yi Xian's reminder, Shi Yao and Tai Tsong had already sensed that there was an expert attacking them. They instantly appeared in front of Yi Xian. The three of them looked at each other, and immediately used the heaven and earth shifting technique and disappeared. What kind of joke was this? Heaven-defying 7 transformation? The three of them were not that stupid. Such a terrifying person was not someone that they could fight against at this moment. Heaven and earth shifting technique void shuttling. Big brother, this is great. We have obtained hundreds of millions of essence stones after destroying the 4 great divine dynasties. We will definitely be able to break through to the heaven-defying 6th transformation realm. Shi Yao's excited voice kept cheering in Yi Xian's ears. Let's go. Yi Xian frowned. He could vaguely feel that there was an aura behind them that had locked onto them. No matter how they tried to escape, they could not shake off the other party's pursuit. Third sister, be careful. This person is not simple. Tai Tsong's voice was heavy. The Archean demon light was steaming, and a fierce look flashed across his eyes. Shi Yao's face changed when she sensed the serious look on Yi Xian and Tai Tsong's faces. She finally felt that things were getting serious. Buzz! All of a sudden, Yi Xian's figure came to a halt. This also caused Shi Yao and Tai Tsong's expressions to change, because a figure had already blocked their path. Dressed in white, he was elegant and otherworldly. His clear and cold eyes indifferently examined Yi Xian and the other two. A trace of surprise quietly flashed through his eyes. Absolute beginning. Yi Xian was stunned when he saw the person's face. He had never thought that he would meet Absolute Beginning so soon. You know me? Absolute Beginning frowned and asked. Of course. Yi Xian slowly nodded as he gradually calmed down. However, his eyes were extremely deep as he continuously sized up the Absolute Beginning. He wanted to see just how big the difference between the Absolute Beginning and Lu Bai was. You have massacred the 4 great divine dynasties. I have been ordered by my master to bring you back to the Xiantian divine dynasty. Now come with me. Absolute Beginning looked at Yi Xian and the other two. You! Boom! The Archean demon light was overbearing. Tai Tsong took a step forward and looked at Absolute Beginning with an extremely evil look. His eyes were filled with a strong desire to fight. Extreme evil? Absolute Beginning's eyes lit up when he saw the Archean demon light on Tai Tsong's body. Just from the evil light on Tai Tsong's body, he knew that this person's technique and Tao were not inferior to his. Interesting. This is the first time I have seen someone with such strong evil qi. However, you are still too weak for me. Absolute Beginning said indifferently. Although he was surprised by Tai Tsong's technique and Tao, he did not put Tai Tsong in his eyes. One was in the 7 transformations, while the other was in the 5 transformations. There was no comparison. Brother Bai Yi, are you really going to take us back? Xia looked at Absolute Beginning pitifully. Her eyes were filled with tears. She had completely turned into a drama queen, as if she had been greatly wronged. You? When Absolute Beginning saw Shi Yao, he was obviously stunned because Shi Yao's eyes were too pure, and she had an inexplicable temperament that attracted him. At this moment, Shi Yao's eyes were filled with tears, and she looked weak and wronged. This made Absolute Beginning's heart flutter. Goddess Shi Yao. These words were definitely not empty words. Instead, Shi Yao possessed a unique charm that made it so that no living being could bear to harm her. Attack! Suddenly, Shi Yao's face turned cold, and she used the floating life vanishing art. Yi Xian and Tai Tsong had been prepared for this for a long time. The eternal reincarnation fist and the evil sky strike attacked Absolute Beginning. Chapter 1898. Rumble. The three of them attacked without any warning. It was unknown how many times the three of them had done this, and how many heaven-defying experts had died because of it. Absolute Beginning was a pure person. He didn't expect the three of them to sneak attack him. Moreover, the three of them attacked without holding back. He was caught off guard. Boom! The attack of the three heaven-defying 5 transformations had already landed on Taichu, sending him flying. The light of immemorial catastrophe that had gathered around him exploded as well. Kill him while he's down. Xiao shouted and attacked Absolute Beginning again. Yi Xian had a strange look in his eyes, but he followed closely behind. The three of them attacked Absolute Beginning crazily. The three of them had done many evil things. Xiao had learned many shameless and cruel tricks from Yi Xian. The three of them didn't need to talk to know each other's intentions. Absolute Beginning was extremely terrifying. He was a heaven-defying 7 transformations expert. If they didn't take the initiative, the three of them would definitely die in his hands. The one who strikes first gains the advantage, and the one who strikes last suffers. This was what Yi Xian had taught Xiao, and she remembered it well. Despicable. Boom! The heavens shook as the dome of heaven exploded. A beam of light of immemorial calamity shot out, and the world's origin energy was rioting. A terrifying pressure erupted from Absolute Beginning's body. Get lost! Chi! Chi! Absolute Beginning was worthy of being a heaven-defying 7 transformations expert. Even in the face of Yi Xian and the other two's joint attack, he could deal with it easily. When he flipped his palm, beams of immemorial light of calamity erupted. Bang! 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 Heaven, earth, God, abyss. The heaven-defying 7 transformations was too terrifying. After 3 consecutive explosions, Yi Xian and the other 2 were sent flying. The terrifying immemorial light of calamity attacked them, causing them to suffer unimaginable injuries. Boom! The heavens and earth exploded. Yi Xian and the other 2 were like kites with their strings cut as they were sent flying. They fiercely smashed into the ground, and blood sprayed out from their mouths. Qi. Dressed in white, he was like the heavens and the earth. The arrival of a divine king. The heavens and the earth were intimidated. Absolute Beginning's white robes were purer than snow, and his face carried a faint trace of anger. His temperament was pure, and he had no ill intentions towards Yi Xian and the others. However, he never thought that the 3 of them would be so despicable and shameless that they would attack him while he was distracted. Boom! The primordial light of calamity sealed the heavens and earth. 3 forbidden lights shot out in succession, directly branding Yi Xian and the others, instantly sealing their cultivation bases. Seal! Absolute Beginning stepped down from the sky and used 3 god-binding ropes to tie up Yi Xian and the others. The other end of the ropes was in his hand, and his face finally revealed a satisfied smile. You 3 little brats are too despicable and shameless. If it wasn't for my heaven-defying 7 transformations, I would have died in your hands today, Tai Chu said angrily. He had fallen. He was completely defeated. Yi Xian and the others looked at each other. At that moment, their cultivation bases were sealed, and their faces were filled with bitterness. This was the difference in cultivation bases. Although the 3 of them were heaven-defying 5 transformations, they were pitifully weak against Absolute Beginning, who was in heaven-defying 7 transformations. One should know that it wasn't just a difference of 2 levels, but a divide between them. No matter how strong the 3 of them were, they were no match for Absolute Beginning. However, it was still alright. Yi Xian was very calm, because he could feel that Absolute Beginning didn't have any killing intent towards the 3 of them. Instead, there was a hint of curiosity in his eyes. Let go of Lao Tzu. Tai Tsung roared with hatred and wanted to break the god-binding ropes. Unfortunately, his cultivation base was sealed, and there was no way he could escape from the god-binding ropes. Little brother in white, I was wrong just now. Don't be so fierce. Xiao used the same trick again, and pretended to be pitiful. However, Absolute Beginning didn't fall for it this time. Instead, he allowed Xiao to continue acting. The 3 of you have good cultivation bases, but you've done a lot of evil. Today, I'll capture you and bring you back to Xiantian Holy Court. Follow me, Absolute Beginning said coldly. He pulled the god-binding ropes and brought Yi Xian and the others into the sky. Then he turned into a beam of light and returned to Xiantian Holy Court. In the blink of an eye, Yi Xian and the others became prisoners. They couldn't even withstand one attack from Absolute Beginning. Heaven and earth were shifted, and the void shuttled. Absolute Beginning held 3 god-binding ropes in one hand, and Yi Xian and the others were bound on the other end. The 3 of them could only become his prisoners, and let Absolute Beginning lead them forward. Hey, let go of your Grandpa Tite Song. Otherwise, when Grandpa steps into the heaven-defying 7 transformations, I'll tear you to pieces. Tite Song was furious. He had never experienced such a huge blow. The 3 of them were defeated by Absolute Beginning. This was his greatest humiliation. Little brother White Robe, little brother Absolute Beginning, please spare us. We won't dare to do it again. Xiao pleaded pitifully. However, she kept winking at Yi Xian secretly. Obviously, she was hinting for Yi Xian to think of a solution quickly. At this moment, Yi Xian frowned slightly. His eyes were deep and calm. He wasn't worried that Absolute Beginning would hurt them. After all, according to the trajectory of history, the 3 heaven-defying lands were entangled with each other. It was only because of his appearance that there were some twists and turns. However, letting Absolute Beginning take them back to Xiantian Holy Court was not the result that Yi Xian wanted. After all, he returned to the past to improve his cultivation base, not to befriend the 3 heaven-defying lands. Brother Absolute Beginning, can we talk? Finally, Yi Xian spoke. As his voice rang out, Absolute Beginning paused and turned to look at Yi Xian. For some reason, although Absolute Beginning had never seen Yi Xian and the other 2, he had a good impression of them. It was an inexplicable feeling, but it really existed. It was as if there was a line that connected him to the 3 of them. Moreover, this taciturn black-clothed young man in particular gave him a familiar and amiable feeling. Oh, what do you want to say? Absolute Beginning rolled up his sleeves, and a cloud appeared under their feet. He temporarily let go of the god-binding rope, and looked at Yi Xian curiously. Your Absolute Beginning Gu. You cultivate the ancient divine king art. You want to reach the 9 changes, right? Yi Xian said with a smile. Absolute Beginning was stunned. He looked at Yi Xian with slight surprise and said, You seem to know me very well. Of course, my understanding of you is far more than that. Yi Xian smiled and said, But have you thought about it? Even if you reach the 9 changes, can you really break the curse of reincarnation? Boom. As Yi Xian's words entered their ears, Absolute Beginning's mind was shaken. Even Tite Song and Shi Yao's faces stiffened. This was because in the hearts of all the heaven-defying realms, the curse of reincarnation had always troubled them. The only way for them to break it was to reach the 9 changes. However, when they heard Yi Xian's words, their hearts trembled violently. They were obviously shocked by Yi Xian's words. Yes, even if they reached the 9 changes, could they really break the curse of reincarnation? Chapter 1899. You seem to know a lot of secrets. Absolute Beginning looked at Yi Xian in confusion. Although Yi Xian's cultivation was much lower than his, he didn't know why. But he felt like he couldn't see through Yi Xian. The ancient era was cut off, and the ancient era was born. The number 1 elite of the ancient era couldn't break the curse. All the ancient creatures died, and only Desolation survived. Do you think you are stronger than Desolation? Yi Xian asked. Desolation? Absolute Beginning's face changed. His eyes shone fiercely because he had a goal in his heart. He wanted to catch up to Desolation, but he had never seen this legendary existence. Legend. Desolation opened the reincarnation door and disappeared from the universe. This legend had been passed down, but no one knew if it was true or not. I can tell you one thing. Desolation has already cultivated to a shocking level, but he still can't break the curse of the reincarnation cycle. That's why we keep destroying the God Dynasty to steal origin stones. Only when more people reach the 9 transformations realm can we break the curse of the reincarnation cycle. Yi Xian told a lie that wasn't too big or too small, so that he could temporarily escape. Why should I believe you? Absolute Beginning's face turned cold. Then, I can tell you another secret. In the next moment, Yi Xian finally used a killer move. What secret? Absolute Beginning was shocked. It won't be long before the gate of reincarnation reappears. Desolate will walk out from that gate. He will tell you that even if you reach the 9 transformations shocking heavens, you still won't be able to break the curse of reincarnation. Boom! It was like an ancient thunderclap. It was like the universe was shaking. Yi Xian's words were earth-shattering. It shook the souls of Absolute Beginning and the others. Really, Absolute Beginning's voice shook as he looked at Yi Xian. He couldn't believe this. I don't need to lie to you. I want to be friends with you, Yi Xian said sincerely. Friends. Taichu found this word to be extremely unfamiliar, because he had never had any friends since the day he was born. All he did every day was cultivate. His master, Divine Lord Xiantian, had always told him that his future was 9 changes shocking heavens. He would lead all the immemorial creatures to break the curse of samsara. He carried the hope of all immemorial creatures on his shoulders. And he had always been cultivating for this mission. He never had any so-called friends. Nor did he know what friends were. Taichu was silent. Yi Xian did not say anything. He believed that Taichu would let them go, because this was a fated meeting, and not a fated enemy. As expected, tens of breaths later, Absolute Beginning kept the God-binding rope away, and 3 rays of light of calamity flew out from Yi Xian and the others' bodies. The 3 of them finally regained their freedom. You can leave, Absolute Beginning said indifferently. You're really letting us go? Xiao was stunned. She did not expect Yi Xian to let them go with just a few words. She found it unbelievable. There will always be opponents in life. I see that your talents are not below mine. If I really bring you back to Divine Lord Xiantian, I'm afraid I will lose you. Absolute Beginning smiled. Don't worry. I will catch up to you sooner or later. When the time comes we will fight. I will let you know who is the strongest immemorial expert, Taitsong said coldly. Taitsong said coldly. Obviously, losing to Taichu made him feel very frustrated. Whether it was for himself or Xiao, he had to defeat Taichu. Okay, I'll wait for you. Absolute Beginning smiled faintly. Being able to have such an evil person as his opponent was also a challenge for him. Little brother in white, why don't we become sworn brothers? Xiao darted her eyes and boldly came before Absolute Beginning. She actually shook his arm and acted coquettishly. Sworn brothers? Absolute Beginning was stunned. Looking at the fairy-like girl in front of him, a touch of desire grew in his heart. Although he knew that the girl in front of him was a little demon, he felt a sense of tenderness in his heart. He could not bear to reject her. Yeah, no discord, no concord. Big brother just said that we can be friends. Why don't we become sworn brothers? Xiao giggled. This? Absolute Beginning was stunned and speechless. He did not know how to answer. Humph, if you want to become sworn brothers, he has to be behind me. Looking at Xiao holding Absolute Beginning's arm, Taitsong's face was filled with jealousy. He looked a little unhappy, but he did not want to show it. After all, his cultivation was not as good as Absolute Beginning's. After all, Xiao once said that the man she liked must be the strongest immemorial expert. He had never forgotten that. Little brother in white, okay? When it came to acting coquettishly, Xiao was already a master. She kept shaking Absolute Beginning's arm, which made him unable to resist. Okay. Absolute Beginning's heart was simple. Under Xiao's constant coquettishly begging, he still agreed. When he realized it, it was too late to regret. Perhaps it was fated. The 4 of them turned weapons of war into gifts of jade and silk. They actually became sworn brothers and sisters. Yi Xian was still the oldest, Absolute Beginning was the second, and although Taitsong was dissatisfied, he could only be the 3rd brother. As for Xiao, she was the little sister of the 3. Little sister, I am called Absolute Beginning, not little brother in white. Absolute Beginning smiled. But second brother's clothes are whiter than snow, and your temperament is so elegant. That's why I call you little brother in white. But I will call you second brother in the future. Xiao giggled. Actually, the name Bai Yi is also very nice. Absolute Beginning's eyes were in a trance, and then he smiled. Bai Yi. Yi Xian had been calm the entire time, but when he heard the 2 words from Taichu's mouth, his heart slightly trembled. The way he looked at Taichu also changed slightly. Big brother, before you said that the gate of reincarnation will appear again and desolate will walk out of it. Is that true? Absolute beginning came in front of Yi Xian and looked solemnly at Yi Xian. Second brother, big brother is lying to you. How could it be true? Xiao quickly said, because she also thought that Yi Xian was lying to absolute beginning. After all, this kind of thing was too unbelievable. It's true. Yi Xian lightly nodded. However, it was also his words that caused Xiao and Taizong's expressions to change. They didn't think that Yi Xian would actually speak the truth. Big brother, who are you? Absolute beginning looked at Yi Xian seriously. He didn't know why, but he felt that Yi Xian was hiding a big secret. At this moment, not only was absolute beginning looking at Yi Xian solemnly, waiting for Yi Xian's answer, but even Xiao and Taizong were the same. Along the way, Yi Xian was very calm, as if nothing could disturb his heart. Even if they were sworn siblings, they felt that Yi Xian was keeping a distance from them. Who I am is not important. What is important is that the three of you will become 9 changes shocking existences, and I will be your witness. Yi Xian said in a deep voice. Yi Xian paused for a moment. His eyes were slightly drifting. He looked up at the sky, and a figure flashed across his mind. Actually, Yi Xian didn't say something. He was waiting for Desolate to appear, because that was him in his previous life. He wanted to know what was behind that door. Chapter 1900, Breaking Through the Ancient and Modern World, Going Against the Flow of Time, Wandering Between the Past and the Future. All he wanted was to reach the 9 changes. This was Yi Xian's goal for returning to the primordial world. He appeared to be extremely indifferent, and even maintained a distance from the 3 heaven-shaking dangers. Because of this, in the eyes of the 3 absolute lands, Yi Xian had always been very mysterious, and they couldn't see through him. The wind was light and the clouds were light, and the waves were calm. Yi Xian lightly didn't open his mouth, but once he did, it would be earth-shattering, causing the 3 great earth-shattering thoughts to run wild. Just like now, Yi Xian only said a few words, and the 3 of them were shaken. They unconsciously believed in Yi Xian. It wasn't that Yi Xian's words had some kind of magic, but that everything he said would happen in the future. Naturally, the 3 absolute lands would believe him. Big brother, can you predict the future? Xiao probed. I'm not that powerful. I just know some secrets you don't know. As for what you want to do next, it's up to you. Yi Xian lightly smiled. However, at this moment, he'd already made a decision in his heart. It was time for him to leave. The 3 absolute lands had already met. Yi Xian couldn't predict what the consequences of his appearance would be. The path of history was fixed. His existence in the past was a taboo among taboos. Once he changed the past, the consequences weren't something he could bear. Cultivate. He only wanted to reach the 9 changes. Everything else had nothing to do with him. At this moment, Yi Xian's mind was clear. He had to leave. If he continued to be entangled with the 3 absolute lands, something unpredictable would happen. Fate brings us together. Fate brings us together. Today, the 4 of us have become sworn brothers. I will always remember this friendship in my heart. Yi Xian took 3 steps back, as he looked at the 3 of them with a pair of deep and quiet eyes. Big brother, you? Xiao's small face froze. She felt the change in Yi Xian's emotions at this moment, and a feeling of parting suddenly arose in her heart. You're leaving? Taizong was smart enough to see that Yi Xian wanted to separate from them. All good things must come to an end. My appearance is just a small interlude in your lives. We will meet again in the future. Yi Xian smiled. Eldest brother, since we're already sworn siblings, why don't the 4 of us travel together in the supreme ancient immortal realms? This way we can take care of each other. Also, if you leave, Xiao would be very sad. Although it was his first time meeting Yi Xian, Taichu always felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity with Yi Xian. This also made him want to keep Yi Xian. The 3 of you are destined to be entangled for the rest of your lives, while I have my own path to walk. Yi Xian deeply glanced at the 3 of them, then resolutely turned around and left. When he took a step forward, he'd already disappeared from their eyes. Xiao didn't want Yi Xian to leave. She called out to Yi Xian, eldest brother, When will we meet again? When the gate of reincarnation reappears, that will be when we meet again. Yi Xian's figure had already disappeared from the world, but his voice echoed in the ears of the three of them, causing them to be greatly shocked. Will the gate of reincarnation really appear? Will the legendary famine really walk out of that gate? What secrets does eldest brother have? The three of them whispered to each other. Xiao and Taitsong had spent the most time with Yi Xian. They felt like they were in a dream, and couldn't wake up even now. He stepped through the sky, and traveled through the universe. Yi Xian had the cultivation of the 5 transformations. He could go anywhere in the supreme ancient immortal realms. He left Taichu and the others to focus on cultivation. After all, he was just a passerby in the supreme ancient immortal realms, not the main character. Moreover, Yi Xian didn't dare to change anything. He couldn't change anything. The only thing he needed to do was to strengthen himself. Heaven burying art. Rumble. In the next moment, Yi Xian's body shook as the power of the heaven burial samsara was born. The heaven burial art rapidly surged within his body, and his entire body instantly disappeared from the world. The sea turned into mulberry fields. Time changed. Time was the most ruthless and unpredictable. In the blink of an eye, endless years passed. Billions of years passed quietly. Terrifying experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms appeared one after another. Peerless geniuses fought between the heavens and the earth, creating a vast golden age for the supreme ancient immortal realms. After billions of years, the supreme ancient immortal realms reached their peak. There were as many supreme ancient immortal realms as there were carps crossing the river. The supreme ancient immortal realms had reached their peak. Among them, the 3 most terrifying experts stood out. Primordial godly King Gu Taichu, primordial diabolical King Taitsong, and goddess Xiao, who was revered by all the beings of the supreme ancient immortal realms. After billions of years, countless terrifying beings of the supreme ancient immortal realms cultivated to the supreme ancient immortal realms. There were even peerless geniuses who tried to reach the supreme ancient immortal realms. Unfortunately, all of the archaic creatures who tried to reach the 9 transformations failed. Not a single one succeeded. The master of the supreme ancient godly king, godly lord profound heaven, fell because he failed to reach the supreme ancient immortal realms, and turned into ashes, never to exist in this world. Godly King Batian fell. He also failed on the path to the supreme ancient immortal realms. Godly King 9 Firmaments fell on the path to the supreme ancient immortal realms. Bad news came one after another. Countless supreme ancient immortal realms fell on the path to the supreme ancient immortal realms. In an instant, the supreme ancient immortal realms became the nightmare of all the beings of the supreme ancient immortal realms. Finally, under the failure of countless predecessors, some supreme ancient immortal realms no longer tried to reach the supreme ancient immortal realms. They were all waiting for the moment of samsara's destruction. They believed that even if they weren't the supreme ancient immortal realms, they would be able to break the curse of samsara's destruction if all the supreme ancient immortal realms gathered together. Although these supreme ancient immortal realms gave up on the supreme ancient immortal realms, there were still 3 people who continued to advance. These 3 people were Taichu, Taitsong, and Xiao. All the beings of the supreme ancient immortal realms had placed their hopes on these 3. They believed that as long as one of them could reach the supreme ancient immortal realms, they would be able to lead all the beings of the supreme ancient immortal realms to break the curse. However, before the 3 of them could reach the supreme ancient immortal realms, an uproar occurred. The supreme ancient diabolical king actually challenged the supreme ancient immortal king to a battle to determine who was the strongest in the supreme ancient immortal realms. When this news spread, the entire supreme ancient immortal realms was in an uproar. Countless supreme ancient immortal realms personally came to watch this unprecedented battle. Finally, the battle between the supreme ancient immortal realms and the supreme ancient immortal realms began. This battle would be recorded in the annals of history. It could be said to be the strongest battle in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Chapter 1901. The battle lasted for 7 days and 7 nights, but there was still no conclusion. The primordial godly king and the primordial heretic king were both heavily injured, but they still had no intention of stopping. No one knew why they were fighting, and no one knew why they were fighting to the death. No matter how many people tried to dissuade them, they couldn't stop this shocking battle. Finally, one person had appeared to end the battle, and that person was goddess Xiao. It was also because of this battle that the primordial godly king Tai Chu was revered as the #1 expert of the primordial ancient era, while the primordial heretic king, Taizong, and goddess Xiao went missing. The wheel of history rumbled and turned according to the laws of time. Nothing had changed, and everything was moving according to a fixed trajectory. Only one person looked indifferently at the primordial era with a hint of worry in his eyes. This was a somewhat desolate mountain range. Yi Xian was dressed in black, and he looked up at the sky with his hands behind his back. His deep eyes flickered, and no one knew what he was thinking. He's about to appear, right? Yi Xian retracted his gaze from the sky and muttered to himself. There was a hint of complexity in his eyes. Billions of years had passed, and Yi Xian had been cultivating non-stop. In the endless years of cultivation, his cultivation base had increased step by step. Today the heaven-burying art had reached large success, and he had finally reached the heaven-defying 9 transformations realm. Yi Xian wasn't excited about reaching the heaven-defying 9 transformations realm, because he was trapped in the same shackles as the other heaven-defying realm experts. 9 transformations realm. Yi Xian stopped at the heaven-defying 9 transformations realm, and he couldn't touch the 9 transformations realm at all. No matter how much he used the heaven-burying art, no matter how many origin stones he refined, he still had no clue about the legendary heaven-defying realm. Yi Xian knew that not only did he have no clue, but even Tai Chu and the other 2 didn't have any clue. Everyone was shackled in the heaven-defying 9 transformations realm. They needed an opportunity to reach the 9 transformations realm. However, Yi Xian couldn't find where this opportunity was, but he had a feeling that perhaps the appearance of desolation was his opportunity to reach the 9 transformations realm. Wait! He had been waiting. Yi Xian cultivated in seclusion in this nameless mountain range. Even when the immemorial world was in turmoil, even when Tai Chu and Taizong were fighting, it didn't attract any of his attention. This was because Yi Xian knew that this was a fated battle between the 2 of them. With Xiao's appearance, this battle would also vanish. History was moving according to an unchanging trajectory. After the peak battle between the 2, the gate of reincarnation would reappear between heaven and earth, and the legendary #1 expert of the primordial era would also reappear. And what Yi Xian was waiting for was famine's appearance. Heaven's burial's reincarnation power. Eternity suppresses the past and the present. At the peak of the nameless mountain, the scripture swirled around Yi Xian's mouth. The power of reincarnation revolved around him. His entire being was like an illusory mist, appearing extremely terrifying. Yi Xian was cultivating. Even though he had reached the heaven-defying 9 transformations, he was still constantly perfecting his Dao and Dao. He was also constantly exploring the 9 transformations realm. Boom! Suddenly, an ancient sound reverberated between heaven and earth. It was also this sound that caused the entire immemorial world to tremble violently. Woo woo woo! A strange and terrifying gale blew, and the entire immemorial world darkened at this moment. An extremely terrifying fluctuation appeared in the sky, as if something extremely terrifying was breeding. It appeared. Yi Xian suddenly looked up. His originally silent eyes flickered violently, and his face flushed red as he looked at the sky. What did he see? A gate. An illusory and unfathomable door. This gate was rotating, and the light of reincarnation lingered on it. The aura of reincarnation bloomed, as if it was going to annihilate the entire immemorial world. At this moment, not only did Yi Xian notice the gate of reincarnation, but all the other immemorial world creatures also noticed the reappearance of the gate of reincarnation. The next moment, the entire immemorial world was in chaos. All the heaven-defying experts frantically rushed towards the gate of reincarnation. The entire immemorial world fell into a boundless riot. This day has finally come. Boom. Yi Xian's eyes were deep as he took a step forward and disappeared. This was a barren land, and one couldn't see the end of it. There was only desolation as far as the eye could see, and not even a blade of grass grew. A gate. A legendary gate of reincarnation. At this moment, the legendary gate of reincarnation floated in the void. The flowing light of reincarnation wasn't dazzling, but no one dared to look directly at it. It was as if one's divine soul would be crushed by it. Chi, chi, chi. The heavens and the earth shook as numerous terrifying figures rushed over from all directions. In the blink of an eye, a black mass of figures had converged. These people's auras were extremely terrifying, and they were all existences above the immemorial world. They surrounded the gate of reincarnation, but no one dared to take a step forward. Silence. Silence. There was a deathly silence. There was no sound in this world, and an extremely oppressive atmosphere was growing. Even everyone's eyes were focused on the gate of reincarnation. This is the legendary gate of reincarnation. Is the gate of reincarnation about to appear? In the extremely oppressive atmosphere, there were finally experts who were discussing in trembling voices. There were even bolder ones who walked towards the gate of reincarnation. Be careful. As soon as an expert of the four transformation realm touched the gate of reincarnation, a roar came from the horizon. Bang! The light of reincarnation was extinguished. Before the heaven-defying experts could react, the person who had just touched the gate of reincarnation had already turned into ashes and disappeared without a trace. Not even a trace was left behind. Hiss! There were continuous sounds of people inhaling cold air, and countless experts retreated in fear. Obviously, this scene had terrified them. Did the gate of reincarnation really appear? Is what Big Brother said true? Did his prophecy come true? Boom! Heaven and earth were destroyed, and the void was distorted. Three figures appeared almost at the same time. It was Taichu and the other two. The three of them looked at the gate of reincarnation in fear, and their expressions were extremely complicated. After hundreds of millions of years, the three of them had matured a lot, and their cultivation had reached the 9 transformation realm. But when they saw the legendary gate of reincarnation, they couldn't help but tremble, because they had always remembered that Yi Xian had told them that when the gate of reincarnation appeared, the legendary top expert of the remote antiquity would walk out from the gate. Now that the gate of reincarnation had really appeared, would desolation really walk out from the gate? Everything was silent, and heaven and earth were silent. Taichu and the other two stared at the gate of reincarnation solemnly, and their hearts were beating violently. At this moment, the three of them no longer had any doubts. They believed Yi Xian's words, and they were waiting for the legendary top expert of the remote antiquity to walk out from the gate. Chapter 1902. Eternal Universe, Eternal Reincarnation. This curse had never been broken before. Legend had it that only by opening the gate of reincarnation would one be able to see the ultimate mystery of the eternal universe, and even break this unbreakable curse. The gate of reincarnation, eternal reincarnation. The light of reincarnation lingered. There was no terrifying aura seeping out, but it made people flinch. Facing this legendary gate, all the heaven-defying experts trembled. They didn't dare to act rashly. An oppressive and tense atmosphere kept growing. At this moment, no one noticed that an illusory figure was looking at them from afar. His eyes were staring deeply at the gate of reincarnation, but he didn't go near it. Yi Xian was waiting calmly, waiting for famine to appear. Yi Xian had been looking forward to this moment, but when the day really came, he calmed down instead. Dong dong dong, like the beating of a war drum. As if the eternal reincarnation was reversing, the gate of reincarnation began to rotate. Rays of reincarnation light gradually overflowed. Be careful. As the number 1 divine king of the immemorial era, absolute beginning was considered the strongest existence in the heaven-defying realm. When he noticed that the gate of reincarnation was moving, he warned everyone. Buzz! All of a sudden, time stopped and space froze. A vague aura of desolation grew from the gate of reincarnation, and a desolate figure walked out of the gate of reincarnation. Dong dong dong. It was as if he was taking a stroll through the vast skies. The sound of his footsteps resounded throughout the universe, causing the entire ancient immemorial world to rumble and tremble. Boom! In the next moment, the greatest terror of the immemorial era appeared. The gate of reincarnation opened, and a figure that resembled the heavens and the earth walked out of the gate. The vast aura of desolation spread out. Just the appearance of this figure forced many heaven-defying experts to retreat. Terrifying. Great terror. The greatest terror of the immemorial era. This figure was dim and indistinct. Only the desolate aura of the immemorial era was circulating. It even affected the laws of the immemorial era. It was as if his appearance was the most dazzling thing in the immemorial era. Famine. Taichu roared in fear. The aura that this figure exuded was something that only the legendary number 1 expert of the primordial era could possess. The end of the primordial era. The sorrow of the primordial era. The dream of 1,000 years in ancient times, life and death, sorrow and sorrow. The sorrow of traveling alone for eternity. The sorrow of the world. The vicissitudes of time were thick and heavy, filled with sorrow for all eternity. The desolate voice resounded in the immemorial world, as the sorrowful aura of eternity reverberated. Huang walked out of the gate of reincarnation step by step. 12 small cauldrons revolved around his body, and a great halberd was slung across his back. His left hand held an ancient bronze scripture, and dark red dried blood stained his body. Boom! Finally, desolation walked out from the gate of reincarnation. The gate of reincarnation behind him vanished with a bang, as if it had never appeared in the world. Silence. Silence. There was no sound and no words. The world was deathly silent. Desolation's figure was the only thing in the world. Although he did not release any terrifying aura, countless heaven-defying experts subconsciously knelt before him. Plop! The heaven-defying experts trembled in fear. They knelt down uncontrollably. Even if they wanted to stand up, they felt like they could not control their own bodies. Damn it! What did you do to us? Tidesong's face was covered in cold sweat. He tried his best to resist kneeling before desolation. He was the primordial evil king. Even if he was facing the legendary number 1 expert of the primordial era, he would not allow himself to kneel before him. Evil, evil, you are not bad. The 12 small cauldrons revolved around desolation. His figure was illusory and unpredictable. His entire being was shrouded in a desolate aura. It was impossible to see his appearance clearly. However, when he looked at Tidesong, his eyes were filled with praise. Clearly, to be able to get his praise, Tidesong was indeed extraordinary. You are really desolation. At this moment, only Taichu and the other 2 did not kneel before desolation. Xiao looked at desolation's eyes in a daze. A familiar yet strange feeling grew in her heart. For some reason, although Xiao could not see desolation's face clearly, desolation's eyes gave her a familiar yet strange feeling. It was as if she had seen those eyes somewhere before. This feeling was very strong. Xiao kept searching through her memories, but she could not remember where. It seems that the 3 of you are the hope of the primordial era. Desolation looked indifferently at Taichu and the other 2. With his cultivation, he could see at a glance that the 3 before him had shocking aptitudes. However, this did not attract too much attention from desolation. Because even if the 3 of them had shocking aptitudes, it would not change anything. You are desolation? Taichu looked at desolation solemnly. He wanted to confirm the other party's identity. Who I am is not important. Because even if I have shocking aptitudes, it will not change anything. Desolation spoke softly. Fellow cultivator, please enlighten me. Taichu's expression changed slightly. He could faintly feel the vicissitudes and heaviness of desolation. Clearly, there must be an ultimate mystery behind the gate of reincarnation that they did not know about. The 9 changes shocking heavens could not break the curse. The primordial era will eventually be destroyed. Only those with shocking aptitudes can survive. Desolation paused for a moment. He looked up at the 3 and said, "But living is better than dying. Because only by living can you steal a glimmer of hope. What is behind the gate of reincarnation? What did you see?" Tidesong took a step forward. His temper was extremely fiery. His gaze towards Desolation was also extremely unfriendly. Unfortunately, Desolation did not answer Taitsong's question. His robe fluttered. The 12 heaven-shattering cauldrons and the ancient bronze scripture soared into the sky. Even the halberd behind him shot out. Chi chi chi. The 12 heaven-shattering cauldrons, the ancient reincarnation scripture, and the heaven-punishing halberd. These 3 divine items contain the secrets of the gate of reincarnation. If someone can comprehend them, they will know the truth behind the gate of reincarnation. As Desolation finished speaking, the 12 small cauldrons and the ancient reincarnation scripture disappeared. They were scattered all over the primordial era. Stop being pretentious. Let this evil king see how capable you are. Boom! Taitsong roared fiercely. The 9 changes shocking heavens technique was fully unleashed. The terrifying Tai Evil Heavens technique had reached great completion. It crashed towards Desolation. Dang! With a flick of the finger, blood splattered. Before Taitsong could get close, the desolate heaven finger sent him flying. A terrifying bloody hole appeared on Taitsong's chest. Taitsong? Third brother? Xiao and Taichu's expressions changed. They instantly came to Taitsong's side and looked at Desolation with fear. They did not expect the 9 changes shocking heavens technique to be so terrifying. Taitsong was so weak in front of Desolation. Chapter 1903. Desolate looked at the 3 of them indifferently. Then he murmured, "The 3 of you have a high chance of becoming a world-shaking danger zone. Unfortunately, you'll be like me, dispirited for eternity. Cowardly scoundrel, do you dare to show your true self?" Taitsong kept coughing up blood. Clearly, Desolation's attack had seriously injured him. But he still stared at Desolation, trying to see his true face. A gust of cool breeze blew by, and then the wisp of Desolation vanished. Desolation's true body was revealed as well. However, his expression was indifferent and ancient, and his eyes were muddy and dim. Boom! It was as if an ancient thunder had exploded, and as if the waves of the ocean had come crashing down. When Desolation's true face appeared in front of the 3 of them, they were stunned on the spot. It was as if their souls had frozen. Big brother? How could it be you? How is this possible? The next moment, Xiao stood up in shock and instantly appeared in front of Desolation. She grabbed Desolation's sleeve and rubbed her eyes. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. They were exactly the same. Desolation's appearance was exactly the same as Yi Xian's. If there was a difference, it would be that Desolation always surrounded Desolation. Moreover, Desolation's 9 changes shocking cultivation made people's hearts tremble. "Yi Zongtian, it's you?" Taitsong said with hatred. Blood kept flowing out of the corner of his mouth as he stared at Desolation. Obviously, he never thought that his sworn big brother would be the legendary strongest expert of the Desolation era. At this moment, the 3 of them seemed to understand something. No wonder Yi Xian told them that the gate of reincarnation would reappear, and that Desolation would walk out of it. It was because he was Desolation. "Big brother, what's going on?" Xiao looked at Desolation with a pale face and kept shaking his arm. However, Desolation's eyes were puzzled. Obviously, he didn't understand the meaning of the word big brother. "You've got the wrong person. I'm not your big brother," Desolation said indifferently. Then, he shook off Xiao and walked toward the horizon. "Big brother, where are you going?" Xiao called out, tears in her eyes. She didn't know why her eldest brother didn't acknowledge them, and instead treated them like strangers. He had even injured Taitsong. To find hope. To find the hope of breaking through the 9 transformations shocking heavens. Famine walked further and further away, until it disappeared into the horizon. Xiao bit her lips, and under Taichu and Taitsong's shocked gazes, she actually caught up to Famine and left with Famine. "Xiao?" When Famine and Xiao disappeared from his sight, Taitsong finally woke up. However, he screamed hysterically, and his eyes were as red as blood. Xiao was his life, but she had left with Famine. This was an unimaginable blow to Taitsong. "I will definitely kill you." Rumble. The archaic evil light was earth-shattering. The archaic evil heavenly technique was rumbling, and the archaic evil light was wreaking havoc, containing the archaic evil light's hatred. He is not my eldest brother. Tai Chu looked in the direction where Famine and Shi Yao had disappeared and murmured, "He is Yi Zongtian, that bastard. He lied to us and Shi Yao." Tai Tsong roared with hatred, and his eyes were as red as blood. His entire person was extremely crazy. "I will definitely kill him. I will definitely kill him." Sigh. Suddenly, a soft sigh came from the void, and a figure quietly appeared beside Tai Tsong. "Famine?" Boom. Tai Tsong suddenly stood up. He didn't expect Famine to come back. However, before he could do anything, Tai Chu was already in front of him, and he looked at Yi Xian with a surprised expression. Yi Xian's expression was calm, and it made the two look at each other, vaguely feeling that something was wrong. "Are you my eldest brother or Famine?" Tai Chu probed. "I said that I am just a witness, a passerby who witnessed you become the 9 transformations shocking heavens," Yi Xian said calmly. "That person wasn't you?" Tai Tsong finally calmed down, because he realized that Yi Xian standing in front of him was also at the 9 transformations shocking heavens, just like him. He was definitely not the strongest person in the ancient barons. "He is me and I am him. It's just that he doesn't know of my existence." Just this sentence alone was earth-shattering. Tai Chu and Tai Tsong were completely stunned, and they were completely stunned. They couldn't understand the relationship between Yi Xian and Famine at all. What is going on? Tai Chu tried his best to calm himself down, and he looked at Yi Xian with a solemn expression, hoping that Yi Xian could give him a reasonable answer. Unfortunately, Yi Xian didn't explain, because he didn't know where to start. His and Famine's existence was indeed too strange. "Go reach the 9 transformations shocking heavens. This is your destiny, and I should go and see him." Yi Xian looked at the two of them deeply, and then he took a step forward and disappeared. "It doesn't matter if he is Famine or not. I will kill whoever took Shi Yao away. I will prove to Shi Yao that I am the strongest person in the ancient barons." Boom! Tai Tsong whispered coldly, and then he suddenly turned around and strode away. The evil light bloomed on his body, and his entire person seemed to have undergone an unimaginable change at this moment. "Is he not from this time and space?" Tai Chu murmured, as if he had thought of something, and it made his heart tremble. Above the clouds in the sky, above the dome, Famine was sitting cross-legged, and a wisp of desolate aura surrounded him. Shi Yao was beside him, and she looked at Famine nervously. "Big brother, why did you lie to us?" Shi Yao bit her lips, and her voice was filled with grievance. "It seems that someone who looks exactly like me knows you, right?" Famine slowly opened his eyes and his voice was calm. However, a deep look flashed across his eyes, as if he had sensed something because of Shi Yao's words. "Are you really not my big brother?" Shi Yao blinked in surprise. She carefully looked at Famine again, and finally found that Famine and Yi Xian looked exactly the same, but their auras were definitely not the same person. "He should be my future self." Famine slowly got up, and he looked at the void with a faint smile on his face. "Previous incarnation, we finally meet." Buzz! The void rippled, and Yi Xian quietly walked out of the void. When the two identical Yi Xian appeared in front of Shi Yao, she was so shocked that she retreated. You? Shi Yao was so shocked that she kept retreating, and she couldn't speak at all. Famine's robe fluttered, and a breeze blew towards Shi Yao, making her faint in the clouds. In this world, only Yi Xian and Famine were looking at each other. Chapter 1904. When I entered the gate of reincarnation, I sensed someone traveling through time and space. I just didn't expect it to be my future. Desolation smiled at Yi Xian. Yi Xian also smiled and said, "I am not your future. You are only my past life, and I am your present life. The future has not appeared yet." Past life, present life, and future? 3 worlds in one. So that's how it is. With just one sentence from Yi Xian, Desolation nodded slowly, as if he had found the target he was looking for. "Actually, I shouldn't have met you, but I am not willing to not see you, because I really want to know what is behind the gate of reincarnation, and where does our future lie?" Yi Xian said calmly. There is a person behind the gate of reincarnation, and I am not his opponent. I lost, and I lost very, very miserably, Desolation murmured, beckoning Yi Xian to sit down cross-legged. The two of them sat back to back, and a desolate aura covered the two of them, causing their figures to faintly overlap. Who is he? Yi Xian asked in a low voice. I don't know, he is just a back view, Desolation said bitterly. Can 3 worlds in one defeat him? Yi Xian asked in a heavy voice. Maybe. Desolation's voice was very soft, and it also caused Yi Xian to become silent. Is he the one who created the eternal universe? Yi Xian asked after a moment of silence. I don't know. Desolation shook his head, his eyes slightly absent-minded, and said, but behind that gate, I saw the rise and fall of the entire eternal universe. It was constantly destroyed and reborn, without beginning or end. Silence. The two of them sat back to back, and there was no distinction between them. Only endless silence grew between the two of them. From his conversation with Desolation, Yi Xian felt a deep sense of defeat from Desolation. What kind of terrifying existence was behind that gate? I have failed in this world. I will disappear soon after. I'll leave everything up to you. Huang broke the silence. I returned to the immemorial era in order to reach the 9 transformations shocking heavens and complete the Tao of this world. Yi Xian said solemnly. You are me and I am you. I will help you reach the 9 transformations shocking heavens. This is also the last thing I can do. Desolate smiled. Thank you, Yi Xian said in a deep voice. You and I are one. There's no need for thanks. Huang revealed a bitter smile, because he already saw the future, knowing that he was going to disappear soon after. However, it was nothing. Although he had disappeared, his present body was still alive, and that was enough. Can history be changed? Yi Xian felt a bit of reluctance. He could feel Huang's sadness. Even though the two of them were originally the same person, their memories and thoughts were still different. History cannot be changed. Everything will follow its original trajectory. When Huang said this, he took a deep look at the unconscious Shi Yao, as if he had a premonition that this girl would fall into eternal sleep because of him. The immemorial era is about to be destroyed. We don't have much time left. Before the great calamity arrives, you have to cultivate by my side until you reach the 9 transformations shocking heaven's realm, Huang said solemnly. Okay. Yi Xian didn't stand on ceremony. To be able to cultivate with his past body was his greatest opportunity, because his past body was the #1 expert of the eternal universe. What was the 9 transformations shocking heavens? Yi Xian had been pondering over this question, but he didn't get an answer. In his heart, the 9 transformations shocking heavens was already an invincible Tao that wasn't restricted by the eternal universe. Only when he followed his past body to cultivate did Huang give him a reasonable answer. The so-called 9 transformations shocking heavens was an evolution of the level of life. This evolution of life had already broken free from the shackles of the eternal universe. His past body, which was the so-called Huang, had pointed out a path for Yi Xian. If he wanted to reach the 9 transformations shocking heavens, he had to abandon external cultivation and rely on his own Tao, and Tao to break free from the shackles of the eternal universe. All this time, Yi Xian's cultivation had relied on the accumulation of endless resources. Whether it was swallowing or refining heaven and earth yuan stones, he could use any method to increase his cultivation. It could be said that he was completely unscrupulous. However, the consequences of doing so were the exact opposite of the 9 transformations shocking heavens. It had to be known that the 9 transformations shocking heavens was to break free from the shackles of the eternal universe, so it couldn't have any connection with the eternal universe. Yi Xian's cultivation had relied on the accumulation of external resources, which happened to rely on the eternal universe. Therefore, to reach the 9 transformations shocking heavens, Yi Xian had to abandon external help and rely on himself to reach the 9 transformations shocking heavens realm. It had to be said that his past body was indeed worthy of being called the #1 expert of the eternal universe. After his teachings, Yi Xian suddenly became enlightened. No wonder he couldn't find the opportunity to reach the 9 transformations shocking heavens. It turned out that the crux of the problem was himself. Since he had a clear path, Yixian finally knew how he should proceed. Returning to one's natural state, consolidating the foundation, and nurturing the origin, Yixian began to settle himself. He didn't bother with the 9 transformations shocking heaven's realm, but instead constantly purified his own cultivation. He constantly refined and compressed the cultivation of the 9 transformations shocking heavens, making his body transparent and flawless. His body was like glass, untainted by smoke and dust. Yixian only had to erase the imprint of the eternal universe on his body. His Dao and Dao would be as flawless as a piece of white paper, and he would naturally be able to break free from the shackles and reach the 9 transformations shocking heaven's realm. This was an extremely long process. No one could help Yixian. Whether or not he could reach the 9 transformations shocking heaven's realm depended entirely on Yixian himself. Surrounded by boundless green mountains and towering rivers, between the green mountains and clear waters, a torrential river flowed from east to west. On both sides of the river, Yixian, dressed in black, sat cross-legged. He held a fishing rod in his hand and some bait beside him. He fished peacefully by the river, giving off a warm and untainted feeling. "Big brother, it's time to eat." A beautiful figure appeared behind Yixian. It was the mischievous goddess Xiao. Good. I'll be right there." Yixian smiled, slowly put away the fishing rod, and picked up the fish basket beside him. There were still 2 fresh carps in the basket. The brother and sister pair walked back home together with the setting sun. Home. This word was somewhat heavy. It was also somewhat unfamiliar to Yixian. However, in the immemorial world, Yixian did indeed have a home formed by the 3 of them. Green bamboos swayed in the wind. A bamboo house stood tall in the forest, and there was even a small pavilion in the courtyard. It was quiet and leisurely, and the smell of smoke and fire drifted out from the bamboo house. A stone table, 3 stone stools, and a few simple and exquisite dishes were placed on top of it. Desolation and Yixian sat facing each other. The 2 of them smiled at each other. Everything was harmonious and peaceful. Big brother Huang, it's time to eat." Xiao smiled as she walked out from the bamboo house, a pot of aged wine in her hands. Her face was filled with a happy smile as she sat down in front of the 2. Chapter 1905. The Great Tao is simple, returning to the natural state. It's a good choice to be able to let go of the mind and not be tainted by the world, Desolation said with a smile. Life is like morning dew, like a dream and like an illusion. Even if this is just a dream of mine in the ancient world, I will always remember it, Yixian said softly. Big brother Desolation, you guys have to be emotional even when eating, Xiao said with a pout. Okay. We often eat Xiao's cooking. Yixian smiled and called Desolation to eat together. The meal ended quickly. Xiao went to clean up the bowls and chopsticks. Yixian and Desolation set up a black and white chessboard, playing chess in the courtyard of the pavilion. Pa! Yixian placed his black chess piece down and said indifferently, "It's almost time." Pa! Desolation placed his white chess piece down and said calmly, "What should come will come. Everything is destined." Pa! Yixian placed his black chess piece down again. He frowned slightly and said, "I'm about to step into the 9 changes shocking heavens and complete the Tao of this world. But you're not here anymore." Pa! Desolation placed his white chess piece down and looked up at Yixian. "You and I are one. The so-called disappearance is just the obsession in your heart. Actually, I regret returning to the ancient world." Yixian was hesitant. He didn't place his black chess piece down. "Your heart is in chaos." Desolation sighed. "I never believed in fate. I only believed in myself. However, in the ancient world, everything is moving according to the path of history. I want to change everything, but I'm powerless." Yixian's voice gradually became cold. "You can't bear to part with me, or Xiao, or do you not want to accept this destined ending?" Desolation asked in a deep voice. "Humans have 7 emotions and 6 desires. I've never left the category of humans. Although I've always stayed out of it, I can't really ignore it, Yixian said. This is not your era, but my era. Your era is in the future. Even if you are unwilling, you can only choose to accept it. Desolate said in a heavy voice. Actually, sometimes I wonder why we're doing this. Is it to break the shackles of the eternal universe and carry the hopes of all living beings on our backs? Yixian asked in confusion. Not for all living things, only for yourself. You and I are both selfish people. So where is the righteousness of the world coming from? Huang said. Ha ha ha. Yixian was stunned, and then he laughed wildly. You and I are one. As expected. Yixian smiled in relief. The two of them once again played chess. Wind and clouds gathered on the small black and white chessboard, vaguely overflowing with a murderous aura. At this moment, inside the bamboo house, Xiao rested her chin on her hand as she stared blankly at the two of them playing chess. There was a faint trace of worry on her face. The three of them had lived together for many years, and she had never asked Yixian why he looked exactly like Huang. Because she vaguely sensed something. She knew that there were some questions that she wouldn't get an answer to even if she asked. But she was very clear about one thing, and that was whether it was Huang or Yixian. They both shouldered a heavy mission. Perhaps they were the only ones who could break the curse of the eternal reincarnation. The chess game ended with Huang's killing move. Yixian lost this game, but he didn't feel disappointed at all. Instead, he settled down even more. The two of them looked like they were playing chess, but it was actually an exchange of techniques and Tao. It was also Huang's teaching to Yixian. As the #1 expert of the ancient desolate era, or even the most powerful person in the eternal universe, Huang's techniques and Tao gave Yixian endless enlightenment. It also allowed him to gradually move towards the 9 heaven-shocking transformations. Xi Yao's mind is pure, and she has already touched the 9 heaven-shocking transformations. It seems like you will enter this realm after her. Huang said indifferently. In terms of talent, I'm indeed inferior to her. Yixian said with a casual smile. You and I are one. Your techniques and Tao in this life are about to be completed. But the desolate heaven techniques are also our techniques and Tao. I still have one last forbidden heavenly technique to impart to you. Huang turned solemn in a rare moment as he looked at Yixian with a burning gaze. What technique? To make Huang so solemn, Yixian's expression turned solemn. Clearly, he sensed that this forbidden heavenly technique was extraordinary. If not, his previous incarnation wouldn't have placed such importance on it. Although I will vanish in the future, my techniques and Tao will remain forever. Therefore, this forbidden heavenly technique is called otherizing the past. Huang said solemnly. Otherizing the past? Boom. Yixian's soul trembled as he looked at his previous incarnation in shock. Just these 4 words left Yixian astounded. Past. Yixian had always been inferring this forbidden heavenly technique, because he had once created the incomplete forbidden heavenly technique, otherizing the future. According to his inference, the future was illusory and unpredictable, but the past truly existed. If he could infer the otherizing the past, he would be able to display the terrifying cultivation level of the strongest person in the desolate era. Unfortunately, Yixian's cultivation realm was insufficient. He was unable to figure out the otherizing the past. He never expected Huang to suggest such a technique. I'll be the past, and you will be the present. When you reach the 9 heaven-shaking transformations, you will be able to use this otherizing the past, truly displaying the eternal might of the desolate heaven technique. Huang said with a burning gaze. Past, present, and future. Yixian muttered as his heart trembled incessantly. He could sense the parting of his previous incarnation. This otherizing the past was the final gift given to him. There's not much time left. You have to carefully comprehend this otherizing the past. It contains all my techniques and Tao. Rumble. Huang's robes fluttered as the weather changed. The two of them instantly entered an illusory and desolate space. Streams of ancient desolate aura were born in this space. Otherizing the past. Like ancient thunder. Like the universe. Huang's voice reverberated in a terrifying manner. At that moment, His entire body transformed into a desolate light as he began to manifest the techniques and Tao of his entire life. The so-called otherizing the past was actually his previous incarnation. This was because he was the past, and Yi Xian was his present incarnation. This taboo heavenly technique needed Yi Xian to complete, and only Yi Xian could use it. At this moment, Yi Xian had a solemn expression. The desolate light fused with him as he bathed in the techniques and Tao of his previous incarnation. He was also pondering over the unprecedented otherizing the past. The past truly existed, the present could sweep through eternity, and the future was illusory. Yi Xian was pondering over the otherizing the past, and he was also pondering over Huang's cultivation level and divine powers. He was even fusing them with his own techniques and Tao. He gradually calmed his heart and mind. After an unknown period of time, perhaps a day, perhaps a year, or even an era, Yi Xian slowly opened his eyes as a desolate light flashed across his eyes. Huang appeared in front of him once again, and the two of them returned to the bamboo forest. It was as if everything just now was just a dream. At this moment, Yi Xian finally woke up. However, Yi Xian knew very well that he had already grasped this taboo heavenly technique. Otherizing the past, Yi Xian muttered as he pondered over this taboo heavenly technique. Huang silently looked at Yi Xian, as a gratified look appeared in his eyes. Chapter 1906. Day after day, year after year, time flew by, and the entire immemorial world gradually approached its end. Although it seemed to be flourishing to the extreme, it also meant that after the peak of prosperity was the beginning of destruction. Boom! One day, a world-shaking aura came from the east. The immemorial light of calamity that pierced through the ages soared into the sky, and an immemorial divine king was born. World-shaking absolute ground, the only ruler of all time. The creatures of the immemorial world roared in excitement, because a world-shaking absolute ground had finally appeared. This also meant all the creatures of the immemorial world had hope. 3 days later, extreme evil firmament, evil and tyrannical filled the sky. The immemorial evil body traversed the world, and the second world-shaking absolute ground had appeared. 2 people had turned into world-shaking absolute grounds in succession. This undoubtedly gave all the creatures of the immemorial world a shot of adrenaline. The heaven-defying experts roared in excitement, and the creatures of the immemorial world cheered. Everyone saw hope, hope to break the cycle of reincarnation and destroy the world. The river was turbulent, and willow trees stood on both sides of the river. Yi Xian and Desolation stood side by side on both sides of the surging river. Goddess Xiao sat cross-legged in the center of the river, and streaks of pure and flawless light revolved around her body. Form. Xiao's hands formed a seal. Her entire body seemed illusory, but a world-shaking aura overflowed, even affecting the entire immemorial world. 9 transformations shocking heavens, truly extraordinary. Yi Xian stood with his hands behind his back. He watched indifferently as Xiao turned into a world-shaking absolute ground. There was some yearning in his eyes, but there was no fluctuation in his expression. Heaven-defying 9 transformations, the body was flawless. Although Yi Xian hadn't stepped into a world-shaking absolute ground, his essence, energy, and spirit had already reached the peak. He only needed a small opportunity to step into this realm. This was related to Desolation's teachings. Without Desolation's help, Yi Xian didn't know if he could step into a world-shaking absolute ground. When will you reach the 9 transformations shocking heavens? Desolation silently looked at Yi Xian. The time isn't right, but it will be soon. Yi Xian's eyes flickered. Big brother Desolation. Qi. In the next moment, Xiao appeared in front of the 2 of them. She was surrounded by a flawless divine light, and there was a brilliant smile on her face. Not bad. Little sister, you were able to transform into the 9 changes shocking the heavens. I am ashamed of my inferiority. Yi Xian's thoughts returned, and he praised her generously. Big brother, you can do it too. Xiao giggled. Looking at the smile on Xiao's face, Yi Xian's eyes darkened. What was about to happen was not something he wanted to see. Huang. All of a sudden, ancient thunder rumbled. Evil suppressed the ancient times. An ancient evil roar rang out in the entire supreme ancient world. That heaven-shaking aura engulfed the entire supreme ancient world, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. Taitsong. Shi Yao's face froze. How could she not recognize Taitsong's voice? What should come will come in the end. Boom. Desolate said indifferently. With a single step he soared into the sky. That ancient desolation aura was released, causing all the creatures in the supreme ancient world to shiver. Can history really not be changed? Yi Xian clenched his fists and frowned. He really wanted to change this tragedy, but he knew there was nothing he could do. Everyone was selfish, and Yi Xian was no exception. He wanted to stop this tragedy from happening, but he knew very well that if history was changed, there would be no future for him. To put it bluntly, if the past was changed, he would die too. Yi Xian did not want to die, so even though he knew the result, he could only let it happen. This was the greatest sorrow and helplessness he had ever felt, but he could only accept it. Big brother Huang, please don't hurt him. Shi Yao was very uneasy, as if she had sensed something. She begged Huang loudly, but she did not get any response. Little sister Yi Xian came to Shi Yao's side. He wanted to say something, but he hesitated. In the end, he could only sigh helplessly. Huang. Rumble. Dark clouds that covered the sky rolled over. The evil figure that crossed the sky roared fiercely, and the Tai evil heavenly law appeared in the world. Taitsong. He was dressed in black, and his hair was snow white. His skin was terrifyingly pale, and his eyes were evil and scarlet. He walked step by step towards Huang. How many years had it been? Taitsong could no longer remember. He only remembered that Huang had taken Shi Yao away. He cultivated like a madman, and even created the Tai evil heavenly law. He was confident that he could crush Huang's desolate heaven law. Until this day, he turned into a shocking danger. His Tai evil heavenly law was number one in all of history. Even absolute beginning's law and Tao were inferior to him. This day had finally arrived. He did not want to care about reincarnation. He did not want to care about the life and death of all living things. He only wanted to take the girl back from Huang's side. That was all. Today, if there is you, there will be no me. If there is me, there will be no you. Boom. Taitsong's evil nature was shocking. His eyes were as red as blood, and beams of evil light raged out from his eyes, causing the world around him to crumble in a terrifying manner. What eternal universe? What reincarnation? Taitsong did not care at all. He wanted to protect the girl he loved the most. In this battle, he wanted to prove to the girl that he was the strongest in all of history. You are not bad, but you are still not my match. Huang looked at Taitsong indifferently. His voice was calm and deep, as if Taitsong's transformation into a shocking danger did not give him any pressure. Huang, you are indeed very strong. However, I am even stronger than you. Both of us are shockingly powerful. The supreme evil firmament technique I created was created to counter your desolate heaven technique. Today is the day you die. Taitsong roared ferociously. His body carried an unrivaled confidence. No one knew how much pain he had suffered all these years. In order to defeat Huang, he had gone through inhumane torture to reach the 9 transformations heaven-shocking realm. That will depend on whether you have the ability. Desolate said calmly. He raised his 5 fingers, and an ancient desolate aura filled the world. Even the heaven and earth yuan qi was dissipating in a terrifying manner. Die. Qi. The Tai evil heavenly law was extremely evil and ferocious. Taitsong's law and Tao were fully displayed. The terrifying ancient evil light turned into millions of stars, and with extreme hatred, it smashed towards Huang. Desolate heaven palm. Rumble. It crossed the sun and moon, and shattered the stars in the sky. The desolate light turned into a huge palm that covered the sky, and slammed towards Taitsong. Bang! 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 Shocking danger, an attack from the ancient times. When the two of them collided, the stars in the sky and the earth were exploding. Streams of starry rivers from the 9 heavens poured down in torrents. Millions of miles of land sank in a terrifying manner. Endless magma gushed out from the earth's core. The scene of everything being destroyed was extremely terrifying. Heaven and earth were destroyed, and all things were destroyed. The shocking attack could be said to be the end of the world, and the destruction it caused affected the entire ancient world. Chapter 1907. Kill. Taitsong roared. Endless battle intent exploded from his body. He pushed the Tai Xia heavenly technique to the limit. His entire body became an ancient evil light that swept toward desolation. I was born in the primordial era, and I've never been defeated. You're still far from that. Boom. The fist pointed at the star, seizing the sun and plucking the stars. At this moment, Desolate was too terrifying. When he pointed at the world, the golden sun hanging above the dome of light actually began to descend. That blazing golden sun descended from the sky, turning all things between heaven and earth into dust. This type of method was simply world-shaking. How big was the sun? It filled up billions of miles of the world. The sun's godly fire burned everything, and it smashed into Taitsong's body. Pang! Taitsong was sent flying. The terrifying Great Yang Star erupted with endless divine fire, burning his body and causing him to suffer a terrifying calamity. Scram! Pang! It had to be said that Taitsong was extremely terrifying. Even though the sun was mercilessly suppressing and killing him, it still couldn't hurt his body. With a ferocious roar, Taitsong threw a punch at the Grand Sun Star. At that moment, the Grand Sun Star began to crack. After a loud explosion, the Grand Sun Star actually exploded, turning into endless heavenly fire that rained down on the immemorial world. One fist to destroy the golden sun. This kind of power was rarely seen. Only someone who could shock the heavens could achieve this. With this punch, the sun no longer existed. The entire immemorial world became a land of endless darkness. All of the immemorial world's creatures trembled. It felt like the end of the world had come. Moonfall. Desolation ignored Taitsong's power. His sword pointed at the sky as if he was the ruler of the world. His every word and action contained an irresistible will. Rumble. A moon star appeared in the luminous heavenly dome. Its hazy moonlight scattered across the immemorial world. The moonlight was warm and peaceful, but it was also filled with cold, killing intent. Buzz! Something terrifying happened. As Desolation's sword fell from the sky, the moon star fell as well. The hazy moonlight turned into billions of moon sword lights that shot towards Taitsong. At that moment, the moon star suppressed Taitsong. Supreme evil firmament. Taitsong laughed evilly. He could feel the terror of desolation. But this ignited his will to fight even more. The Tai Evil Heaven technique exploded to the extreme, turning him into the brightest evil star in the world. Boom! Although Taitsong couldn't control the immemorial cosmic star to fight, he was the most terrifying star that could destroy all the universes. Bang! The great star exploded, and the moonlight exploded. Billions of rays of moonlight disappeared without a trace. The moon star turned into dust and disappeared. Only the drifting moonlight remained. Huang, have you run out of tricks? Taitsong was unbridled and arrogant. He roared at Desolate angrily. His murderous aura filled the sky as he attacked Desolate. You do have some skills. In the face of Taitsong's shocking killing intent, Desolation frowned. He was slightly angered. He had indeed underestimated Taitsong. He didn't expect Taitsong to be so difficult to deal with. Bang bang bang. The shocking battle caused the primordial world to collapse. The two of them finally collided with each other in a terrifying manner. Following each of their attacks, the primeval world was shattered into pieces. This scene was simply shocking. This battle was extremely long. It was also the most bitter battle Desolation had ever fought in his life. The Supreme Evil Firmament technique was indeed powerful. Taitsong created this technique to counter the Desolate Heaven technique. It was difficult to determine the victor in a short period of time. Horizon. Yi Xian and Shi Yao stood side by side. Shi Yao's face was pale as she watched the battle. She wanted to enter the battle between the two, but she was stopped by Yi Xian. At this moment, Yi Xian was in a dilemma. He knew he shouldn't stop Shi Yao because this was her destiny. However, he didn't wish to see Shi Yao walk down a path that was destined to be a tragedy. Big brother, don't stop me. I don't wish for the two of them to suffer any harm because of me. Suddenly, Shi Yao flung away Yi Xian's sleeves. As a shocking absolute land, naturally, she wasn't someone Yi Xian could stop. She had already headed towards the battle between the two of them. Haze! Yi Xian sighed. He knew that he couldn't stop her. What was destined to happen would happen in the end. Don't fight anymore. In the heaven and earth battlefield, everything was destroyed. When Xiao entered the battlefield of the two, her anxious voice sounded in their ears. Xiao, just watch from the sidelines. I will prove to you who is the strongest in the eternal universe. Taizong hollered arrogantly. He used all sorts of shocking killing techniques. He had to prove himself and defeat desolation in front of Xiao. At this moment, Yi Xian also quietly appeared on the battlefield. He silently watched the battle between Taizong and Huang, with a hint of sadness in his eyes. This was because the tragedy was about to happen. He wanted to stop it, but he couldn't. Don't be sad. This is your destiny. Yi Xian heard Desolation's voice. Clearly, their minds were connected. Desolation could also feel Yi Xian's inner struggle. Is there really no way to prevent the tragedy from happening? Yi Xian transmitted. If you change the past, you won't exist in the future. Desolation's voice was cold. He was telling Yi Xian a cruel truth. Whether it was for himself or for the future Yi Xian, he knew that the outcome was destined. Yet he still had to be ruthless. It's time to end this. Suddenly, Desolation's body trembled. He didn't want to waste any more time. Ancient desolation covered him. The desolate heaven finger, which had been silent for a long time, was raised. Kill. The desolate heaven finger shone brightly. The desolate heaven finger was used. This was Desolation's shocking killing move. It also contained his life's dharma and Tao. It could be said to be the strongest attack since ancient times. Even the most shocking attack would die here. Time stopped and space froze. The ancient desolation dharma froze the primordial world. The shocking killing intent froze Taizong. How? How can this be? The great terror of life and death assaulted Taizong. He roared in fear. Facing Desolation's strongest attack, he wanted to dodge, but he realized that he couldn't move. His entire body was suppressed. Life and death, illusion and destruction. Everything will come to an end. Desolation said in a lonely voice. There was a hint of reluctance in his eyes. It wasn't directed at Taizong, but because he could already see Xiao falling under his attack. I can't accept this. Taizong roared with hatred. His entire body was frozen in the void, facing the desolate heaven finger that was about to land. His evil firmament dharma lost its effect. Sigh. Desolation let out a long sigh and pointed his finger at Taizong. No. What was destined to happen still happened. Facing Desolation's killing blow, Xiao finally stood in front of Taizong. Pooh. Blood spurted out from Xiao's chest. Even the light around her shattered inch by inch. She fell from the sky like a rootless duckweed. Xiao. When this happened, Taizong let out a roar of grief. He rushed over to Xiao and held her tightly in his arms. Why? Why? Looking at Xiao's vitality in his arms, Taizong cried out in grief. He carries the hope of the primordial world. Taizong, promise me. Don't. Xiao spoke weakly. Her voice was getting weaker and weaker. A large amount of vitality was draining away. She was dying. I promise you. Taizong cried out in grief. He kept using shocking techniques to preserve Xiao's vitality. However, the desolate heaven finger was too powerful. It was almost impossible for Xiao to survive. Suppress. Desolation quietly appeared. A rune was formed and directly imprinted between Xiao's eyebrows. The two earth-shattering techniques were working together to prolong Xiao's life. Although she had a slim chance of survival, the girl fell into an eternal slumber. The past couldn't be changed. History was still moving according to its original trajectory. Yi Xian witnessed this moment. He was silent. He clenched his fists tightly. The faint light of reincarnation appeared on his body. At this moment, his entire body was undergoing an unimaginable transformation. A shocking aura was faintly seeping out. Chapter 1908. Heaven and earth grieved, and all things cried together. Taizong hugged Xiao and cried. Everything was going according to its original trajectory. Even if Yi Xian went back to the past, he couldn't change anything. Taizong left. He took Xiao and left. He also promised famine that he would stay in the land of origin forever, until famine reappeared in the world. Then, he would wake Xiao up from her sleep. Mountains and rivers shattered. Heaven and earth collapsed. In the endless ruins of the earth, Desolate stood alone. Yi Xian quietly appeared behind him, and a shocking aura slowly blossomed from him. Congratulations on reaching perfection in the present world's laws and Tao, Famine said softly. Yi Xian looked up at the dome. His expression was calm. He didn't feel any excitement, because he stepped into the 9 transformations shocking heavens. Everything seemed so natural. However, Yi Xian's eyes were abnormally deep. Because even if he broke into the shocking land of danger, he could feel Famine's state of mind. Shocking land of danger, indestructible for eternity. Even if the universe's reincarnation was destroyed, it would be difficult to bury the shocking land of danger. This was what Yi Xian felt. However, Yi Xian also realized something. He felt like he was trapped in an invisible cage. He wanted to break free from it, but he couldn't find the direction to break free. You feel it, right? That invisible pressure has been pressing on us. Only by breaking this shackle can we truly transcend, Famine said calmly. I will succeed. Yi Xian's gaze was deep and distant. He looked up at the ancient sky, as a trace of a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Where are we going next? Yi Xian asked as he thought back. Not us but you. Famine smiled. His smile was bleak and lonely. It also had a touch of sadness. A parting smile appeared on his face. Me? Yi Xian was stunned. He didn't understand what Famine meant. I should disappear. You will have to walk the rest of the path, Famine said directly. Fade away. Yi Xian was alarmed. He did not understand what Famine meant. At this moment, the primordial samsara apocalyptic calamity had yet to arrive. According to the trajectory of history, Famine should have lived until the primordial era, until the samsara faded away. Why was he telling him now that he was about to disappear? Have you forgotten that I am you and you are me? Desolate smiled. Just this sentence alone caused Yi Xian's mind to tremble. He understood what Desolate meant. He was Huang, and Huang was him. Now, he had transformed into a frightening land of peril. In this life, his Dharma and Tao were completed. His 2 lives were already complete. Now, only the Dharma and Tao of the future had yet to appear. Huang is Yi Xian. Yi Xian is also Huang. You will have to walk the rest of the path yourself. In the next moment, something shocking happened. Ancient times were desolate, and heaven and earth were drifting. Famine's body began to fade away. Then he walked towards Yi Xian step by step. Yi Xian also finally understood Famine's intentions. He also walked towards Famine. Wang. The 2 figures began to overlap. That wisp of ancient desolation combined with the heaven-burying reincarnation light. An extremely terrifying fluctuation faintly blossomed from Yi Xian's body. 2 lives in 1. These 4 simple words were as heavy as the primordial universe. As it turned out, when Yi Xian stepped into this frightening land of peril, Famine had already completed his mission. He was only Yi Xian's past self. He had already completed his mission in this life. Famine disappeared. From now on, Famine no longer existed in this world. Only the current Yi Xian continued to exist. So it was like this. Heaven and earth were dusky, and all Dharma fell silent. Yi Xian slowly opened his eyes. A murmur sounded from his mouth. He already understood the thoughts of his past self. The rest of the path had to be walked by himself. He transformed into the past. Rumble. Ancient times were desolate, and there was a frightening land of peril. The frightening forbidden heavenly technique was being used. Yi Xian's entire body emitted an ancient desolate aura. His entire body had transformed into Famine. By transforming into the past, he transformed into his past self. History could not be changed. Hence, Yi Xian was Famine. In the following path, he would use the identity of Famine to traverse the 3 great eras. Just as Famine said, Yi Xian was Famine, and Famine was also Yi Xian. Desolate heaven technique, heaven-burying art. The Dharma and Tao of 2 lives had been perfected. Only the Dharma and Tao of the future had yet to appear. Phew! Yi Xian stood with his hands behind his back, as he slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. That ancient and desolate aura swept across the heavens and earth. In the following days, he would be the #1 expert of the primordial era. He had condensed the Dharma and Tao of 2 lives. Throughout history, who could defeat him? At this moment, Yi Xian was confident that he was invincible. Although the Dharma and Tao of 2 lives could not merge, his body contained the cultivation of 2 earth-shattering existences. Rumble. Suddenly, the immemorial light of calamity shocked the world. A peerless white-clothed figure appeared behind Yi Xian. Although Yi Xian did not turn around, he already knew who it was. You killed Xiao. Absolute Beginning's expression was cold. Anger bloomed in his eyes. The terrifying immemorial light of calamity flashed. His killing intent locked onto Yi Xian. She is not dead. She is just sleeping. One day she will wake up. Yi Xian said indifferently. Famine, I will kill you to avenge her. Absolute Beginning said coldly. You can't kill me because you are not my opponent. Yi Xian frowned. He did not want to fight Absolute Beginning. Whether it was for Xiao or Lu Bai, he had an indescribable feeling towards Absolute Beginning. Boom! Without any nonsense, Absolute Beginning attacked. As the #1 godly king of the primordial era, he was stronger than Tai Tsong. Unfortunately, the result of this battle was already decided, not to mention that Yi Xian had already undergone the 9 transformations. Just the cultivation of Desolate was enough to suppress Absolute Beginning. The battle lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. In the end, Absolute Beginning was defeated. The peak of the heavenly clouds. Absolute Beginning coughed up blood. His white robe was dyed red. He stared at Yi Xian's back, his eyes filled with indescribable hatred. Although the heaven-shocking danger is strong, it is still shackled in the eternal universe. The primordial era calamity is about to descend. You should make some preparations. Yi Xian gave Absolute Beginning a deep look. Then, he turned into a ray of desolate light and disappeared. Famine! Absolute Beginning roared. Terrifying immemorial light of calamity shot up, but it was filled with sorrow and helplessness. The primordial era was long and the world was boundless. The desolate light of calamity streaked across the sky. Yi Xian walked in the primordial era, constantly observing the changes in the primordial era. Reincarnation calamity, eternal era calamity. The primordial era had reached its end. Even the heaven-earth yuan qi began to riot. A silent world calamity curse fell on the entire primordial era. Chapter 1909. Above the dome in the clouds. Yi Xian sat cross-legged, the light of desolation slowly lingering around him. He was examining his own laws and Tao, and also prying into the future. 2 lifetimes were complete, and the future was unclear. He had no clue about the future laws and Tao. This also made Yi Xian ponder his path. According to Yi Xian's plan, when he reached the 9 shocking transformations in the primordial world, he could return to the future chaos verse. But after experiencing a series of events, Yi Xian discovered that this was far from enough. 2 lifetimes were complete, and only the future was missing. Where was the future? This was extremely important to Yi Xian. Even if he returned to the future chaos verse after 2 lifetimes were complete, the future was unclear. How was he to combine 3 lifetimes? The primordial world is about to be destroyed, and the ancient era will soon open. Should I stay or leave? Yi Xian muttered to himself. He looked up at the sky with a deep gaze. After several breaths of time, he suddenly came to a realization. How could he have forgotten that he was Desolation? Desolation would live to the ancient era, and he would witness the appearance of the 4 shocking lands of the ancient era. 2 lifetimes as one, looking forward to the future? At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly understood. Perhaps his future laws and Tao were to be found in the ancient era. And this was also the reason why he had to stay. Abyss. Thinking of the impending ancient era, Yi Xian also thought of that person, the person who could compare to Desolation. In the future chaos verse, Yi Xian and Abyss had only met once. Abyss's pride made him allow Yi Xian to return to the past. Back then, Yi Xian's cultivation was weak, and he couldn't sense Abyss's strength. Now that he thought back, Yi Xian frowned. Strong. Very strong. If he really had to make a comparison, If he compared the future abyss and desolation, abyss was actually stronger than desolation. Yi Xian definitely wouldn't be wrong, because he was desolation. At this moment, the laws and Tao of 2 lifetimes were contained in his body. Compared to the future abyss's aura, abyss's strength made Yi Xian's heart sink. Even shocking heavens and dangerous lands had their own differences. And abyss happened to be the most powerful person in the land of extinction. It was no wonder he was so arrogant. He allowed Yi Xian to return to the past, and was confident that he could kill Yi Xian, even if he became a land of extinction. The eternal universe had never lacked people who could shake the ancients and dazzle the contemporaries. The abyss was definitely Yi Xian's great enemy. Even though the 2 worlds had merged into one, Yi Xian could still feel the pressure the abyss brought him. Ancient times. Yi Xian's lips curled into a smile as the blood in his body began to boil. The sea moved and time changed. The immemorial world had finally reached its end. The entire immemorial world fell into a boundless silence. Only the heaven-defying experts soared into the sky. Everyone could feel the arrival of a great calamity. The dusky sky covered the entire immemorial world. The gate of reincarnation also appeared in the sky. Reincarnation, destruction, eternal curse. Rumble. The gate of reincarnation rotated terrifyingly. The light of reincarnation fell, and the entire immemorial world collapsed. Everything in the world turned to ashes under the light of reincarnation. Kill. The heaven-defying experts soared into the sky and fought a shocking battle. There were divine lords from the heavenly kingdom who led hundreds of millions of disciples to attack the gate of reincarnation. There were also heaven-defying experts who joined forces to perform a forbidden technique. They wanted to fight for the last chance of survival for all living beings in the immemorial world. The world was in chaos, and everything was annihilated. No matter how unwilling the immemorial world's living beings were, they still fell in front of the gate of reincarnation. Under the light of reincarnation, they all turned to ashes and no longer existed. On this day, the immemorial godly king carried the hope of the immemorial world's living beings and fought a shocking battle. He punched the gate of reincarnation, wanting to blast open the legendary gate. Unfortunately, the immemorial godly king still failed. Under the light of reincarnation, the immemorial world's sky collapsed. The boundless land fell. Mountains and rivers turned to ashes. No living being could escape the fate of certain death. Wang. The immemorial millstone spanned across the world. A pitch-black millstone covered the entire immemorial world. The terrifying power of reincarnation fell, and the entire immemorial world crumbled inch by inch, turning into the purest and most primitive energy that poured into the gate of reincarnation. Bang! 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 Absolute beginning. His white robes were stained with blood as he roared in grief. He frantically attacked the immemorial millstone, but he couldn't shatter it. He could only watch as the immemorial millstone continued to destroy the immemorial world. At this moment, Yi Xian stood in the void and looked indifferently at the immemorial world being destroyed. He also saw Absolute Beginning's furious roar, but there wasn't any ripple in his eyes. My fate is in my own hands, not the heavens. Boom! Absolute Beginning roared. The immemorial light of calamity turned into the most terrifying attack that smashed towards the immemorial millstone. It even wanted to shatter the gate of reincarnation. Unfortunately, all of this was too powerless. The gate of reincarnation continued, and Absolute Beginning couldn't stop it. Come! A soft voice resounded and the world instantly changed. Absolute Beginning was instantly pulled to Yi Xian's side. Don't waste your energy. You can't stop it, Yi Xian said indifferently, trying to calm Absolute Beginning's raging emotions. Why? Why aren't you stopping it? Absolute Beginning roared with hatred, questioning Yi Xian. Because the person in front of him was the strongest person in the ancient desolation era. The strongest person in the eternal universe. I once said that earth-shattering can only prevent one from dying, but it can't break the reincarnation curse. If you really want to break the reincarnation curse, you need to break through earth-shattering, Yi Xian said in a low voice. Break through earth-shattering? Absolute Beginning was speechless. He stared blankly at the immemorial world being destroyed, and a self-deprecating smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. So you knew all along? So you've been walking the path to surpass earth-shattering? Absolute Beginning finally calmed down. He looked at Yi Xian with a solemn expression, waiting for Yi Xian to give him an answer. Earth-shattering is the limit of a cultivator. If you want to surpass earth-shattering, you need to reincarnate and cultivate again. Maybe there's still a glimmer of hope, Yi Xian said in a low voice. Reincarnate and cultivate again? Absolute Beginning muttered. After Yi Xian's reminder, he seemed to see a glimmer of hope. Seeing Absolute Beginning in deep thought, Yi Xian knew he had achieved his goal. Absolute Beginning would choose to reincarnate and cultivate again. Lu Bai would also appear in the future. Let's go. Yi Xian patted Absolute Beginning's shoulder and took a step forward, disappearing from the world. This was a world of nothingness. Only a large amount of gray fog filled this place. Apart from that, there was nothing else. Two figures stood in the sea of fog. It was Yi Xian and Absolute Beginning. This was the scene after the immemorial world collapsed. Everything had returned to the starting point. When the fog began to transform into a world, the ancient era would be born. This was the starting point, the reincarnation burial ground. Everything began here, and everything would end here. Chapter 1910. It was boundless in all directions. In this void that had yet to be formed, there was no concept of time. Everything was reduced to nothingness. Other than the most astounding existences, no other living being could exist. Grand Primordium had left. It was unknown where he had gone. He followed a path of nothingness into the distance, telling Yi Xian that he was searching for the essence of this void world. Yi Xian did not hold him back. He sat cross-legged in the void alone. His entire being was like an immortal rock, as he examined his own dharma and Tao. Desolate heaven dharma, heaven burial art? My past life, me in this life? These two sentences constantly resounded in Yi Xian's mind. He vaguely felt that he had grasped something, but he could not grasp that glimmer of brilliance. Yi Xian was meditating on the Tao. He was meditating on the dharma and Tao of the future. In this eternal void world, the only thing he could do was to meditate on the future. This was because it was an extremely important step for him. With 2 lifetimes as one, he had reached his strongest state. Although he had cast otherworldly transfiguration and transformed into desolation, it was only because he was following the trajectory of history. Otherworldly transfiguration. Rumble. Yi Xian softly muttered. A faint figure separated from his body and sat cross-legged in front of him, without saying a word. Future self. It was illusory and unpredictable. Otherworldly transfiguration was an incomplete taboo heavenly dharma. As the future was illusory and could not be corporeal, it resulted in the otherworldly transfiguration being incomplete. In my past life, I attained the Tao in the primordial era. In this life, I'm astounding the heavens in the primordial era. Could the opportunity of the future be in the primordial era? Yi Xian looked at the future phantom in front of him, as his brows knitted tightly together. 3 great eras, 3 astounding lifetimes. Yi Xian had vaguely grasped the opportunity, but he still felt lost. This was because the dharma and Tao of the future self could not be seen. It was just an illusory future. It was something he could not grasp. Wang. Suddenly, just as Yi Xian was pondering, the future phantom in front of him began to change. The surrounding gray fog began to gather towards the future phantom. This is... Yi Xian was shocked. He focused his attention on the future projection, and saw that the surrounding gray fog seemed to contain some kind of mysterious power. It actually caused the future projection's flickering figure to freeze. This is the beginning and the end of the eternal universe. Life, death, illusion, and destruction are all within a single thought. Yi Xian's eyes flickered. He had vaguely grasped that fleeting flash of inspiration. This also allowed him to continuously use his future incarnation to sense the changes in his future self. Recultivate in a lifetime? Ha ha ha. Yi Xian suddenly let out a low roar. and then let out a wild laugh. The entire void trembled, and only Yi Xian's laughter continued to reverberate. Understood. Yi Xian finally understood. He had finally found the opportunity for the future law and Tao to appear. In fact, Yi Xian had always been trapped in a misconception. He had always believed that his future self definitely existed in the future, but the future was illusory and unfathomable. He had painstakingly searched for the law and Tao of his future self, and he had always been conflicted about the law and Tao of his future self. This was actually a huge mistake. What was the future? The so-called future was just a general term. It was nothing more than an illusory and unpredictable process described by one's imagination. No one could predict what would happen in the future. Yi Xian lived in the present, and the future was in his own hands. Every step he took was a process towards the future. He had the future, and the future had him. To put it bluntly, the future path was beneath Yi Xian's feet. No matter how he walked, it was the future. Originally, Yi Xian had always been conflicted about where the law and Tao of his future self was. Now he had fallen into an eternal void. There was no concept of past, present, or future. The gray fog was the most primitive energy of the eternal universe. It was also this most primitive energy that combined with the shadow of the future that allowed Yi Xian to wake up from his stubborn thoughts. I have the future, and the path is beneath my feet. Yi Xian finally understood. A brilliant smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The shackles that shackled his soul were shattered at this moment. He transformed into the future and cultivated anew for a lifetime. When Yi Xian achieved great enlightenment, his entire being was sublimated. The incomplete forbidden heavenly law was transformed into a complete forbidden heavenly law under his enlightenment. A bit of soul light of the origin shone out from between Yi Xian's eyebrows. The shadow of the future in front of him magically solidified, and a person who looked exactly like Yi Xian appeared. From now on, you shall be called Tribulation. The ancient world shall be the land of your 9 changes. Yi Xian smiled as he looked at the person who looked exactly like him. A gratified look flashed across his eyes. Thank you for bestowing a name upon me in this lifetime. Tribulation cupped his hands and bowed. He also looked at Yi Xian with a smile. At this moment, the two of them were of the same mind. They were both Yi Xian himself. It was similar to the external incarnation he had cultivated in the past. However, although the two had the same effect, the difference between them was like heaven and earth. The external incarnation was just a clone. However, the complete future was different. This was Yi Xian's future self. It could also be called a lifetime self. It could be said to live and die together with Yi Xian. In other words, Tribulation was Yi Xian's future self. The two of them were of the same mind. They were the soul of the same person. But Tribulation had his own independent thoughts. Moreover, if Tribulation died, Yi Xian would die as well. On the other hand, if Yi Xian died, Tribulation would die as well. The two of them existed together. If one of them died, the other would not live alone. It seemed to be of little value, and posed a great danger to Yi Xian. However, the opportunity in it was unprecedented. This was Yi Xian's future self. It could also be called a lifetime self. When Tribulation reached the 9 changes shocking heavens, Yi Xian would be able to return to the same body for 3 lifetimes. He would really take the important step of combining 3 lifetimes into one. The combination of 3 lifetimes into one would surpass the 9 changes shocking heavens and enter a new realm. He would truly be able to dominate the eternal universe. This was the strongest method of all time. It's all up to you. Yi Xian looked at Tribulation solemnly. The two of them agreed with each other. Everything was understood without any words. I will shock the heavens in the ancient times. I will definitely not live up to the expectations of this lifetime, Tribulation said resolutely. Heaven and earth are the chessboard. Everything is the chess piece. You and I will plan for eternity and plot the mystery of the future beyond the eternal universe, Yi Xian said with a smile. Plot for eternity? Heaven and earth can be deceived. Ha ha ha. Yi Xian and Tribulation laughed out loud. They regarded the eternal universe as a chessboard and finally put down the most important piece. Time was like eternal sand. but it did not appear in the eternal void. Yixian no longer had the concept of time, but he could feel the changes in this world of nothingness. A faint life force was brewing in this nothingness. Boom! Finally one day, an extremely terrifying life force erupted from this void. The gray fog quickly dissipated, and the eternal universe reopened at this moment. Chapter 1911. Stars filled the starry sky one after another, and streams of luminous sun galaxy were descending. There was also a boundless great world rising out of nowhere. A magnificent painting of the ages was being drawn. In the vast expanse of the world, weak living beings were born from the world's yuan qi. Living beings were born in the vast expanse of heaven and earth, rivers and mountains, glaciers and oceans. They began to wander aimlessly, but gradually gained sentience as the world's yuan qi infused them. The world's yuan qi boiled as all living beings flourished. From the top of the luminous sky dome, Yixian looked down at the entire ancient great world, and a smile that seemed to be scheming for eternity appeared. In this life, I'll take my leave first. Let's meet again in the future. Tribulation was just a mortal. He didn't even have the slightest bit of cultivation, but he had the same invincible confidence as Yixian. At this moment, he was bidding farewell to Yixian. However, at this moment, Tribulation's appearance had already changed. Because if he wanted to walk in the ancient world, he definitely couldn't look exactly the same as Yixian. After all, everyone knew of the legend of famine in the three greatest eras. If he walked the ancient world with Yixian's appearance, he would probably cause a huge uproar. For telling the ages, you and I know. I'll be waiting for the day we meet again. Yixian rolled up his sleeves and sent Tribulation into the great ancient world with a gust of wind. Yixian didn't give Tribulation any cultivation techniques, nor did he give him any cultivation resources. He didn't even give him a defensive weapon. Yixian didn't do this on purpose. He believed that Tribulation would definitely be able to overcome all the obstacles and truly reach the 9 heaven-shaking transformations in the ancient world. The 4 earth-shaking great lands of the primordial era? Yixian overlooked the great ancient world, a sinister smile forming on his face. Only in this moment did he realize that everything had been part of his plan. Foretelling the ages, setting up the 3 greatest eras. Everything had been part of his plan. Be it his return to the past or the appearance of his future self, everything was part of his plan. It would affect the chaos verse of the future. Who was the biggest mastermind behind the scenes in the eternal universe? This had always been Yixian's question. But now, he finally understood that the biggest mastermind behind all of this was himself. Of course, he was also deeply trapped in this eternal chess game. He saw all living things as chess pieces, and even the world was within his calculations. However, behind the gate of reincarnation, there was an unpredictable existence. That person was only the back view, but it caused the previous life to be defeated very, very miserably. I don't care who you are. Even if you created the eternal universe, once I combine my 3 lifetimes and break through the shackles of heaven and earth, I will definitely trample you under my feet. Yixian looked up at the sky speechless. He was roaring in his heart. Wang. Yixian took a step forward and disappeared from the luminous dome. He wanted to walk in the ancient world and wait for the fated battle. Time flew by. Since the birth of the ancient world, it had been hundreds of millions of years. Ancient living things were rising in defiance of the heavens, and divine dynasties were appearing one after another. There was the Lord of the Divine Nation, the King of myriad demons running amok, and even a peerless divine lord suppressing a region. This resplendent ancient world was surging with great momentum. Among these powerful ancient living things, the most powerful people had appeared. They were 4 men, and the 4 of them could be said to be the most powerful people. The first person was called Lu Yuan, and he was known as the person with the greatest aptitude. It was rumored that his aptitude was even above Desolation's, and the technique he created was known as the #1 technique of all time. He was also the first existence to reach the heaven-defying realm, and he could be said to be the number one person in the ancient world. No one could compete with him, and he was the symbol of invincibility. The second person was called Fu Tu, and the ancient living things respectfully called him Tu. He was the second existence to reach the heaven-defying realm. Wherever Fu Tu went, a sea of blood would overflow, and white bones would appear on both sides. It was as if his existence was only for slaughter. The third person was called Tribulation, and the ancient living things did not know where he came from. It was as if he was born in the ancient world, and Tribulation had been walking in the ancient world. In the beginning, Tribulation was not famous, and he only continued to become a disciple of powerful living things. He even became an alchemy boy of a divine nation, until Tribulation destroyed the divine nation, and killed the lord of the divine nation from hundreds of millions of li away. For a time, he became famous and shocked the entire ancient world. Tribulation was also the third existence to reach the heaven-defying realm, and he was revered by the ancient living things. The fourth person was called Black Prison, and the ancient living things respectfully called him Prison. This person was known as the number one in the ancient world, and anyone who went against him would be suppressed and sealed forever. His methods were cruel and fierce. Prison was also the fourth existence to reach the heaven-defying realm, and the four of them were also known as the most powerful people in the ancient world. The other ancient living things were naturally extraordinary as well. As the four of them reached the heaven-defying realm, a large number of ancient living things followed in their footsteps and became heaven-defying realm existences. It was a magnificent scene where thousands of Daos fought for supremacy. The ancient world was turbulent, and the divine nations were conquering each other. The divine nations and the demon dens were killing each other, all for the sake of producing more heaven-defying realm experts, and even hoped for the emergence of the 9 changes shocking existences. Looking at the flashy world, sitting and watching the ancient world. A clear pond, a cottage, an ancient pine in front of the door, and a calm figure. Under the ancient pine, Yi Xian was dressed in black. He sipped the tea in his cup, and his eyes were calm. He looked leisurely, as if he was enjoying this rare quiet time. Not bad, the heaven-defying 3 changes. Abyss is indeed terrifying, and he deserves to be called the number one genius of all time. Yi Xian put down the tea in his hand, and a smile of approval appeared at the corner of his mouth. Since he entered the ancient world, he had been living in his cottage, and did not touch anything outside. However, he had been paying attention to the changes in the ancient world, and the existence of Abyss attracted his attention. Yi Xian could not help but sigh. Abyss seemed to be born for cultivation. Although he was only at the heaven-defying 3 changes shocking existences, the Dharma and Tao he created were extremely powerful. When he reached the 9 changes shocking existences, no one in the eternal universe could control him. Of course, Yi Xian was an exception. Although Abyss was extremely powerful, Yi Xian believed that he could still suppress him. However, Yi Xian was under a certain amount of pressure. Abyss was different from the 3 earth-shattering lands of the Archean era. Whether it was in terms of talent, cultivation, divine powers, or Dharma access, he could completely crush the 3 of them. For example, Abyss was at the heaven-defying 3 changes shocking existences. If Tai Chu, Tai Tsang, and Shi Yao were also at the heaven-defying 3 changes shocking existences, the 3 of them would only be suppressed. From this, one could see how powerful Abyss was. No wonder he was so proud, because he did have the right to be proud. Chapter 1912. Rumble. The sky darkened and the sun and moon lost their light. Bolts of lightning flashed across the ancient sky. The terrifying pressure of the world intimidated the ancient world. Heaven abyss covered the entire sky. The ancient world trembled and resonated with the world. A pair of eyes appeared in heaven abyss, as if it was looking down on the entire ancient world. Thunderous booms resounded throughout the ancient world. I have unified the ancient world, and created heaven abyss to suppress the ancient world. to protect the ancient world and all living beings. I swear in the name of Heaven Abyss. With me here, I will guard the land and expand the borders, protect all living beings, and establish the foundation of the ancient world. When I die, I will become a remnant soul and protect the ancient world for eternity. This oath is witnessed by the sun and moon, and the world itself. The heavens rumbled, and the ancient world trembled. These thunderous booms reverberated throughout the entire immemorial world. Countless primordial creatures prostrated in their hearts. They stared at Heaven Abyss with reverence. Their unyielding wills erupted, transforming into boundless power of faith that surged into Heaven Abyss. In front of the hut, next to the clear pond, Yi Xian looked up at the heavenly abyss with a stunned expression. He watched as the endless power of faith poured into the heavenly abyss from the ancient world. Only after a full 10 breaths of time did he calm down. Establishing a heart for the ancient world, establishing a life for all living beings. Such courage, such a prodigy. I've underestimated him. Yi Xian muttered as a trace of praise appeared in his eyes. This phenomenon was Abyss swearing an oath to the ancient world. He had the unparalleled courage to lead the ancient world for eternity, and he made an eternal promise to all living beings in the ancient world. This oath meant that Heaven Abyss would shoulder all the hopes of the ancient beings. It also meant that Heaven Abyss had supreme courage and wanted to surpass his predecessors to create an eternal ancient world. All the ancient creatures could feel the will of the abyss. Countless ancient creatures offered up their faith, which was all absorbed by the abyss. How vast were the ancient beings? How vast was the ancient world? When these primordial creatures kowtowed to abyss, the purest faith energy caused abyss cultivation to once more increase at a terrifying rate. It had to be said that Yi Xian admired abyss. One had to know that the power of faith had existed since ancient times, but this kind of thing was a double-edged sword. While it could improve one's cultivation, it could also destroy one's self. Because each strand of faith power came from a different living being, it was mixed with too many emotions. Although it could give Abyss unparalleled power, it was also very likely that he would be affected by the emotions of the faith, which would cause him to go berserk and die. Yi Xian admired Abyss' great perseverance. Abyss hadn't just absorbed a little bit of faith, but the faith of almost all ancient creatures. This method was simply crazy to the extreme and bold to the extreme. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that it was courting death. A Heaven Abyss suppressing the past and present. What a terrifying fellow. Yi Xian looked indifferently at Tian Yuan in the sky. A deep look rose in his eyes. This was a great enemy who was above him in terms of Dharma and Tao. Boundless green mountains surrounded the surging river and sea. A bamboo raft flowed down the surging river. 2 figures stood on the bamboo raft. One was in green, and the other was in black. It was as if they were admiring the beautiful ancient scenery. Tribulation. Abyss has already established his heart in the ancient times. He's the king of the ancient beings, and he values you and me very much. I've already agreed to his invitation to assist him from now on. What about you? The man in green had a sharp face. His sword-like eyebrows were extraordinary. However, his eyes were as cold as the 9 heavens cold river. Just one look at him would make one's heart tremble. Oh! The man in black was startled. His face was handsome and elegant, giving people a feeling of spring wind and rain. At this moment, he looked at the man in green with slight surprise. You've been proud all your life, and you've always been a loner. Your Aeon Heaven slaughtering art is even more shocking. You don't have a deep relationship with Abyss, and even see him as a great enemy. Why are you serving under him? The man in black was puzzled. Although I'm proud, I'm not as good as him. He's the most powerful person I've ever seen. If there's really someone who can break the curse of reincarnation, I believe that only he can. The man in green said in a deep voice. I see. The man in black nodded in understanding. He already understood the man in green's intention. The 2 stood on the bamboo raft and flowed down the river. These 2 were Tribulation and 2 of the 4 shocking lands of the ancient times. Tribulation, you and I have known each other for many years. Why didn't you agree to Abyss's invitation? He has already told us that even the 9 shocking changes might not be able to break the curse of reincarnation. Only if we work together might there be a glimmer of hope. Two looked at Tribulation in confusion. Break the reincarnation? Tribulation smiled. His eyes were slightly erratic, and then he looked at Two and said, I'm used to being free and can't stand some restrictions. Naturally, I rejected him. Hearing Tribulation's explanation, Two frowned even more. He knew Tribulation very well. After all, they had known each other for many years and were very good friends. Although Tribulation was a person who followed his heart, he was extremely hardworking in cultivation. He didn't have the aptitude of Abyss, but he relied on his great perseverance to get to where he was today. The curse of reincarnation was a sharp sword above the heads of ancient creatures. It suppressed every creature until they couldn't breathe. Two didn't believe that Tribulation didn't feel it and chose to assist Abyss. This was the best choice to resist the great calamity together. Originally, Two thought that Tribulation would make the same choice as him. The two brothers could cultivate together and resist the future reincarnation together. But he was disappointed after all. Tribulation didn't choose to assist Abyss with him. He still chose to be a lone traveler. Tribulation, tell me the truth. Do you think Abyss can't break the curse of reincarnation? Two asked solemnly. That's right. Tribulation didn't say anything perfunctory. He nodded slightly. Looking at Tribulation's indifferent expression, Two sighed and said, Tribulation, the antiquity was destroyed and the antiquity collapsed. The three shocking extremities of the antiquity disappeared. The legendary top master of the antiquity, Desolation, also became a mystery. They didn't break the curse of reincarnation. As Abyss said, they're just a bunch of losers. The only hope is Abyss. In the face of Two's earnest advice, Tribulation didn't refute it. His eyes were as deep as an ancient pool, and Two didn't know what he was thinking. Then who do you think will succeed? Two frowned and asked. Chapter 1913. Someone stronger than Abyss, Tribulation said softly. Impossible. Two rejected Tribulation's suggestion because he had seen Abyss's power. Even when he and Tribulation fought together, they were still defeated by Abyss. The power of Abyss had already exceeded his understanding. He could truly be called invincible in the same realm. Even compared to the legendary Desolation, Two believed that if Abyss and Desolation were in the same realm, Desolation would be the one to lose. Tribulation didn't say anything to Two's rebuttal, because he was Yi Xian's future self. Although he had his own independent thoughts, he knew very well what Yi Xian was planning. He was also working hard for the three worlds as one. However, everyone had emotions and desires. In the ancient world, Tribulation's only friend was Tuesday. He didn't want Two and Abyss to be together. Therefore, the two of them traveled together. He wanted to bring Two to see Yi Xian, hoping that Two would choose Yi Xian's camp. Two's idea was very simple. He wanted to persuade Tribulation to support Abyss and fight the future Samsara Tribulation together. The person you want to bring me to meet is someone stronger than Abyss? Two frowned and asked. You'll know when we get there. Tribulation didn't say much. The two flowed down the river and disappeared into the boundless mountains and rivers. Sigh. A long sigh came from Yi Xian. He had already sensed Tribulation's arrival and saw Two's existence. In fact, Yi Xian didn't want to meet Tribulation because Tribulation was his future self. He would eventually shock the 9 changes of the ancient world. Moreover, this move was related to the future of the chaotic universe. If he could avoid it, Yi Xian naturally didn't want to meet him. However, Yi Xian could understand his future self's intentions. After all, Two was one of the 4 most terrifying places in the ancient world. He wanted him to join his camp, and they were good friends. Since they were here, Yi Xian naturally wouldn't ignore them. He stood beside the clear pool with his hands behind his back, waiting for the two of them to arrive. Woo! A cool breeze blew past, and Tribulation and Two quietly appeared behind Yi Xian. Greetings, fellow Taoist. Tribulation's expression didn't waver as he cupped his hands and bowed towards Yi Xian. Two frowned as he looked at Yi Xian's back. He felt disdain in his heart. Could it be that this person was even stronger than Abyss? At this moment, Yi Xian's aura was silent, and he did not reveal any astounding cultivation level. Even the desolate heaven technique was hidden in his body, so it was natural that no one could tell what he was capable of. I didn't expect you to visit me today. It was naturally impossible for Yi Xian to acknowledge tribulation. He slowly turned around and smiled at the duo. He even nodded at Tu with good intentions. Although Yi Xian came with good intentions, Tu came with ill intentions. He said with a cold gaze, "Tribulation said that you are stronger than Yuan, but I don't believe it. This is because in the eternal universe, there is absolutely no one stronger than Yuan." Yi Xian did not retort Tu's mockery. Although Tu's words were not the truth, they were definitely not empty words. Yuan's strength was obvious to all. His Dharma and Tao were ranked number 1 among many astounding places. This was definitely not just for show. "It looks like you are biased against me." Yi Xian continued smiling. "Cut the crap. Let me see how capable you are." Boom. Annihilating the heaven and earth, eternal massacre. The eternal heaven slaughtering art was extremely terrifying. It was created for the massacre of the world. It was fine if Tu did not make a move, but once he did, it would be an eternal massacre strike that would definitely take someone's life. The heaven slaughtering earth annihilation art came crashing down on Yi Xian. The surrounding heaven and earth collapsed in a terrifying manner. Its might was terrifying to the extreme. Heaven defying 3 transformations. Not bad. Yi Xian was nonchalant as he praised generously. Against Tu's strike, all he did was casually raise his hand to slap it. What happened next left Tu aghast. Woo. There were no visible ripples as everything froze. Before Tu's strike could land on Yi Xian, it was easily reduced to nothingness by Yi Xian. Dang! 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 In the next moment Tu kept retreating. Just a wave of Yi Xian's hand had not only destroyed his eternal heaven slaughtering art, but it had also made him lose his footing. Tu retreated more than 10 steps before he finally stabilized himself. However, he looked at Yi Xian with a face full of shock. An extremely serious expression appeared on his face. As everyone knew, the person with the highest cultivation in the ancient world was Abyss. However, Abyss was only at the heaven-defying 5 transformations. From that strike, Yi Xian's cultivation had obviously surpassed the heaven-defying 5 transformations. Furthermore, it was definitely not at the heaven-defying 5 transformations level. This was because Yi Xian did not even reveal his aura. This meant one thing. It meant that Yi Xian was not from the ancient world. It was impossible for living beings from the ancient world to be so powerful. This was because the ancient world had only been born for hundreds of millions of years. It was impossible for such a powerful being to be born. At this moment, Yi Xian's identity was obvious. He could only be a survivor from the primordial age and primordial age. However, who could survive from the primordial age and primordial age to the ancient era? The answer was obvious. Heaven-defying earth annihilation art. Tu's scalp was numb. He could not believe his own guess. He had actually met a truly powerful being in this nameless mountain range. Are you the primordial divine king, or the primordial evil king? Tu's face was filled with fear as he stared at Yi Xian. He was waiting for Yi Xian to give him a reasonable answer. "I am not Tai Chu or Tidesong. If you wish, you can call me Huang," Yi Xian said calmly. Boom! It was as if thunder from the 9 heavens had exploded, as if an ancient wave was crashing down. When Yi Xian said those words, Tu felt the world spin, and his soul violently trembled. Huang! Huang! Tu could not believe it and did not dare to believe it. He kept retreating in shock. He guessed that Yi Xian could be one of the primordial divine king, or the evil king. However, he definitely did not think that Huang was one of them. The reason was simple. Huang was a legend. He was known as the first man of all time. The legends of Huang were passed down by the living creatures of the 3 great ages. However, these were only legends. Tu had never thought that he would meet the legendary first man of the primordial age here. He was so shocked that his body and mind trembled. He could not calm down at all. At this moment, Tu finally understood why Tribulation would decline Abyss's invitation. It turned out that Tribulation knew about Huang's existence. No wonder. No wonder Tribulation said that someone was stronger than Abyss. It turned out that this person was the legendary Huang. A wisp of Qi of Desolation grew on Yi Xian's body. He turned it into Yi Xian's perfect interpretation of Huang's existence. It made Tu's face turn extremely serious. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.